Welcome to the place where it all began for me. Hi, I'm Nick, and this is Required Reading on Retro Games with Nick. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new Required Reading episode. This time we are going to cover Computer Gaming World number 215 from June 2002. I decided to pick this era and a PC magazine because this essentially this month really is where my own PC gaming career started. It was the summer of 2002 when I was able to get my first own gaming PC. And so I have a lot of nostalgia for the games of this period. And I feel like this is going to be interesting to read through because, for one, I had the perspective of somebody living in Europe, right? I was in Italy, so we got the same games. It's just that sometimes, there were delays or some things were organized differently. Broadband was not really a thing in Italy, probably until a couple of years later. And so, it's just fascinating to see what the American perspective on a part of gaming that I'm actually very familiar with would be like. And at the same time, I'm just very excited to see which games there are and to be able to speak to some of these from the perspective of someone who has at least heard of most of them, if not touched most of them at some point or another. So very exciting. Let's go ahead and get started. We can see on the cover there is a Star Wars Galaxies preview for 12 pages. We have Jedi Knight 2 and Freedom Force being reviewed and rated, and Unreal Tournament 2003 just previewed, I guess, of course. And they're also going to teach us how to host a LAN party. Age of Mythology coming this fall. Oh, man. Love this game. Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Love this game even more. Very excited for us to check it out for 1 hour in our 60 Minutes to Sway episode for this issue. Oh, this is also when Battlefield was starting. This is the very first Battlefield, multiplayer only. Giant maps, 64 players, World War II based. This game, though, never heard of it before. Alright, we're gonna skip the what you call it, table of contents. Neverwinter Nights, also getting published soon. Unlimited Adventures, 1 box. This was, I think, the first translation of D&D 3rd edition rules to PC. Let me do a quick Google to check, but D&D 3rd edition PC games. Yeah, I think it was the first of the games that did use 3rd edition. I guess KOTOR also, Knights of the Old Republic, was based on the same system. And maybe Icewind Dale 2, though I think that came later. Warcraft 3, oh my god, Warcraft 3, oh, I spent so many hours in the single-player campaign. I was never a big, online multiplayer gamer. Part of it was, again, there was no real broadband, and so, if you were online at the time, you had to pay for the amount of time that you were logged on. And so, I was not able, as a teenager, to just spend as much time as I wanted on the phone. But also, I've never... I don't react well to defeat in general, and so online multiplayer gaming was never really my business. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Fucking fantastic game that I'm kind of sad it took me 20 years to pierce through the veil of confusion of its mechanics, but Now that we've gotten past that hump, oh my god, it's such a fantastic game. Editorial. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm pretty strict about the games that I let my 7-year-old son Julian play. For instance, I typically don't let him play shooting games like Halo or fighting games like Dead or Alive 3. However, during this year's spring break, I brought him into the office to spend the day with me. After a few hours of having him play games and surf the internet, my at-home rules broke down and I let him play Dead or Alive 3 on the Xbox. He knew that he was doing something a little outside of the norm of what I would let him do. He was smiling from cheek to cheek as he beat the crap out of his opponents. Okay, I guess it's all harmless fun, I thought to myself. Then, lo and behold, as he was battling one of the game's scantily clad female opponents, he blurted out to the character, "Shouldn't you be at home cooking?" As a reasonably well-rounded man of the new millennium, I was horrified. He's a good kid, but games do have the ability to bring out more base characteristics. In one sense, they're a great catharsis. I'd rather he say that to a game character within earshot of me so I can tell him how inappropriate it is, instead of saying it to one of the girls in a second-grade class during a rousing game of kickball. Spending a day in our offices will show you how powerful we all react to games that we're playing. Between Tom Price and James Milke's expletive Latin rants, you'd think that winning at games is a life or death struggle. Anyway, I'm happy to report that my son and I have gone back to playing nice games like racing and snowboarding titles, and as soon as I'm done laughing, I'll be sure to tell him a woman's place isn't at home cooking, but wherever she wants to be. I think there is no way that this thing actually happened. I don't know what elementary school would have been like in 2002. I just don't believe that a 7-year-old would blurt to a female character, "Shouldn't you be at home cooking?" Like, why would you even think of saying something like that, you know? Unless it's been maybe hanging out with, like, the older kids on the playground, but, like, this seems to me like such a fake editorial, that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, for all we know, he's telling the truth and it really happened, but I'm gonna have a big X'd out on that. Letters. Letter of the month. Technology tool. Here's a question. In the killer rigs for April 2002, you claim you've built identical power rigs, but in the picture they don't look identical to me. First off, one is black and the other is white. One is in the Antec S5X635 case, but the other is not. One appears to have the Sound Blaster Platinum card, while the other does not. You claim to use a wireless mouse, yet both have wires. One monitor is an NEC, the other doesn't appear to be. So my question is, how long does it take Will O'Neill to get his hair like that? Jeff Klinoff. Which, okay. This is a very confusing letter to me. I don't understand. Were they making a joke? It's completely beyond me if they did. Anyway, moving on. Operation Flashpoint, Game of the Year. I can't believe Operation Flashpoint was your Game of the Year, April 2002, when it only has one freaking save permission. And then you guys railed on Hitman for having no save feature when the levels of that game were nowhere as huge as those in Operation Flashpoint. Not to mention that everyone in Op Flash is a damn sniper that can hit you from 100 yards with no sweat. And that if you die, you have to start all over again. Ghost Recon and Hitman blew Operation Flashpoint out of the water. Your reviews suck. Ryan Judas. First of all, I never complained to magazines about anything. Your opinion is your opinion. But seriously, Operation Flashpoint as Game of the Year? Freaking Quake was a more realistic war game than Op Flash. If the people in the game looked totally weird, the shadows sucked, the sound sucked, the gameplay sucked, the graphics sucked, the AI sucked, I could go on all day. I'm not questioning your gaming authority, but really, that game was a hunk of pig crap. Person. CGW backpedaling. Regarding your comments about Black and White in your Game of the Year Awards article, I'll agree with the bad meat theory. The closest I'll come to agreeing with the rest of your comments is that, yes, after you get used to the incredible AI, the polished presentation, the attention to detail, and the out-and-out charm that oozes from every bite of this game, you begin to realize that at the heart of it, it is just another strategy game. So what? So are Empire Earth and Civ 3 and Tropico and every other strategy game that was released in the past year. Boring? Anything but. Your columnists finish all the games that they review, right? Do you mean to tell me that Charles Ardell played through all of Black and White without noticing that it was boring? Here's a little tip, guys. If you can spend 40 plus hours with a game and not realize that it's boring, it's not. Don't misunderstand me. It's not one of those whiny, "Why didn't my favorite game win?" letters. I thoroughly enjoyed Black and White and will continue to do so regardless of CGW's about face, but I just had to express my bewilderment at your atypical backpedaling. Andy Helma. Funny thing about Black and White is that most of us here really did love it for a while, but we can't think of another game in memory that got so old so fast for us and eventually disappeared from our hard drives. Thus, the backpedaling. But we're glad you're still enjoying it, and we still think there's potential for a great expansion here somewhere. Creature Owl, wasn't it? Actual, not hate mail. Thank you for such a great magazine. I can always rely on you guys for straight, honest skinny on this month's Half-Lives and Age of Empire 2s and the usual pile of daikatanas and professional bull riders. Ooh, using daikatana as like bottom of the pile game. It's true, but it's kind of rough. One thing I always appreciate is your rather harsh curve for reviewing and rating the monthly releases. I have disagreed with you before, of course. I think you took it a little too hard on some games like Deus Ex and Red Alert 2, which both deserve better IMO. But better too harsh than too nice. Jeff Green still writes a great editorial every month, and I hope he never stops. I never get tired of his monthly rant. Thanks for being true to me for 4 years running. Keep up the good work, and lay off the Canada jokes. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have the next best thing to soldier a fortune for a mindless bloodbath hockey. Robert Rice. I just wanted to let you know that it keeps me coming back to see, I just wanted to let you know what it is that keeps me coming back to Computer Gaming World. Scott McCloud's work has been great as always. I hope he's putting together a book of his thoughts and observations on games. The articles that you've been running on games have been out and reviewed already, such as the postmortem on Civilization 3 in the April 2002 issues, are useful. It's good to hear some perspectives on a game's life after release and patching. Re-examining the gameplay and replayability after the game loses its novelty is useful, especially in this time of patches and mods. Oh boy. Several games could benefit from this treatment. Black and White, Half-Life, and EverQuest spring to mind. The awareness of gameplay mechanics in reviews has also been helpful. It would be nice to see more of that. Fun is such a subjective experience. An understanding of the structure of the gameplay is what I'm looking for when I'm considering a game. Thanks for the good work. Keep it up. Coaster of the Year photo, an apology. I've been a devoted fan of computer games since I was furiously pressing keys on the keyboard in front of an Apple IIe, and I've been a fan of Computer Gaming World since I discovered it. As such, I usually enjoy each issue and look forward to the next. However, I find a photo of a man with a pistol to his head on page 84 of the April 2002 issue to be a major error in editorial judgment. Animated violence is one thing. Graphic, realistic pictures like this one of a man apparently committing suicide are over the line. I'd grant you that each person draws that line of tolerance somewhere different, but given the young audience for this magazine, it seems to me a bit reckless to be including such material. Surely CGW's staff could have made the point with another image. I hope you'll keep such realistic violence out of future issues. If not, I'll be, regretfully, canceling my 14-year-old son's subscription. Thanks for your time. Tony Marker, PhD, Framing, Massachusetts. Actually, we agree with you. For the record, the photo is a still from a movie by acclaimed Japanese director Beat Takeshi Kitano, and it's a fantasy sequence, not a real suicide. The fact that we know this probably clouded their judgment. But the picture is not funny if you don't know it's not real, and even so, it's a bit brutal even for us. Our apologies. I am now very curious to look this up. So let me pause the recording for a minute while I pull up the issue and show you the image. Alright, I got the issue pulled up, so let me close this one. And check. Okay, yep, here it is. I don't know, I guess the little blood splatters might be a bit much. But damn, whatever, it's fine. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to see, what things cause people to react back in the day. Alright. Cowboy Bebop. I was reading issue 211 of your wonderful magazine and noticed that on page 37 there was a short article in a cartoon called Cowboy Bebop. Ooh, cartoon! When I first saw this, I dismissed it as merely the result of Jeff Green or another member of your top-notch staff mixing alcohol and crack again. Then I read about it again in issue 212 in Terry Nguyen's editorial entitled First Person Scooter, page 13. Good old Scoot had never steered me wrong before, so I was especially interested in his embracing of such a dumb-sounding cartoon. I went to my local video store and rented the first two sessions on the VHS. I liked them so much I went straight to Amazon.com and bought the complete DVD box set for $160. Now, as I sit in my dark basement and watching the series for the fifth time, it's more than 10 hours long, you know, I am happy that Scooter was right once again. As long as he and Jeff Green still work at Computer Gaming World, I will keep subscribing. Way to go, Scooter! P.S. If they don't bring the Cowboy Bebop movie to America, it's your fault. One thing that I find very weird about this issue is that they're posting a lot of these letters and not responding. Is it weird that I would expect them to actually have a response to each of them, even if it's just like acknowledging criticism or whatever? Tea time. Back in the April 2002 edition, a guy named John wrote saying that the British are our closest allies and that the sideswipe at Britain was unnecessary. He was talking about when Dana Youngevard, managing editor, reviewed The Weakest Link February 2002 and said unkind things about the British economy. Her comparing a crappy PC game to the state of the British economy is uncalled for. But then for CGW to bring up a war of over 220 years ago, saying the British were an especially great ally back in 1776, is not only pathetic, but in very poor taste. Have you any idea of how many descendants of Britain died fighting their own kind in the War of Independence? The British will always stand by America when it comes to fighting tyranny. It's just a shame that the view of Britain in your magazine, which is getting poorer each month, is so negative. Pete, British, from Wichita, Kansas. As we go through this again, we love you, Pete. We love everyone, especially the British. Sure, you oppressed us, and sure, you serve beans on toast for breakfast, but almost everything else British is good. Like Motorhead and Benny Hill. Outrage Aliens Corner. I realize that the Computer Gaming World staff is completely racist against people or things of other planets, but please have some respect. You have a lot of subscribers from my home planet, so please just change your name to Computer Gaming Worlds. Yes, more than one world. All the people on our planet are very disappointed with this magazine and its racist editors. First Canada, then Britain. Now you're bashing my planet. I'm tired of this nonsense. Change the name. Boom Baby Gug. Or to Boom Baby. Get lost. We have enough trouble to deal with around here, see above letter, without worrying about overly sensitive green-skinned freaks like you. And don't worry, we went ahead and canceled your subscription in advance. Medal of Honor. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the great review of Medal of Honor, March 2002, possibly the best game I've ever played. This game also gave me one of the coolest moments I've ever had while playing any game. I was sneaking around the Germans' U-boat base looking for their new prototype for stopping the Allies' radar. When I found it, it was in with a group of scientists. Ha, I thought, this will be easy. Just kill them with my silenced pistol and take out the prototype. But as soon as I took the gun out, they whipped out their pistols and killed me in an instant. It was great, and I'm sure there are many other moments in this game that people will be writing about for months. Tom Dries. We agree 100% about Medal of Honor. And how great is it that we already have another awesome shooter this year in Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast? See our review on page 78 of this issue. 2002 is already shaping up as a fantastic year in gaming. A plea for single-player RPGs. Perhaps I'm the only one, but I really miss the days of good, standalone, non-online RPGs. I went to the store the other day and saw another online Ultima expansion. What gives? I know Lord British is no longer involved, but frankly I think that the RPG market is quite lacking in quality games that are not online, except Wizardry 8. I even went so far as to buy Abandonware on eBay. Please, give us RPG or something we can play in the privacy of our dank basements. And by the way, I thought Ultima 9 was not that bad. Lord British, return to us! Sandro Bayer. P.S. At least Sid Meier is still devoted to giving gamers what they want and not just milking online cash cows. Eversmut. Look, I don't play EverQuest anymore, and I don't know what kind of add-ons they've implemented lately, but what exactly is the tiger doing to the wolf on page 122 of your April issue? I'd take the blonde personally. Okay, at least a good 6 times out of 10. John M. Okay, we hate you now, John. There are some things that you just can't unsee. Boy, this April issue, very controversial. Page 122. 122. So this is the cover of EverQuest Shadows of Lucklin. And there's a like anthropomorphic tiger that is in a very weird position compared to a wolf that's right in front of him. So a bit ambiguous. Let's just say a bit ambiguous. Proof for Joel. Hey editors, I need to know which gaming system is the best. I know you guys have probably answered this question a lot, but I need you to put this in your letter section so my console gaming friends will shut up about how my computer's graphics are worse. I know it's not true, but they need proof. Please excuse my spelling because I got a D in English. Joel Whitney, Baker, Montana. Okay, here's your proof, Joel. PC Gaming rules. Now put down the gaming magazine and go study. We'll correct your spelling this time. We are not running detention hall here. Earl Weaver, everyone's favorite hoopster. On issue 213 on page 71, you claim that Earl Weaver basketball, not baseball, won Game of the Year in 1986. Was this a mistake, or was the Earl Weaver franchise more successful than I thought? Just wondering. Kevin, Florida. Nope, it was a mistake. Our copy editor was too busy playing Tiger Woods football that day to notice the error. Science Corner. In a letter from Jeff Hollinger in the March 2002 issue, he pointed out that Newtonian physics break down at speeds close to the speed of light, and then gave an example. However, his value of c equals 3 times 10 to the 6 meters per second is incorrect. The actual value is c equals 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. As a physics major, I've used this number way too much. I certainly know it off the top of my head. His calculation of 13% at half c is still correct, but at v equals 1.5 times 10 to the 6 meters per second, the difference in momentum is pretty much irrelevant. Also wonder if the ships in this game are actually going half... well, you get my point. So anyway, good magazine, quite funny. I like the little snide comments. The games I know anything about seem well reviewed too. And by the way, you can't have my lunch money. You wouldn't want to beat up a girl, would you? Heather. Wouldn't want to beat up a girl? You haven't read as much, have you? We have a couple mail bites too. I find it odd the two coaster candidates, Majestic and World War II OL, and your biggest flub review, Black and White, which you owned up to, were some of your more highly pimped up games of the year. From Cashin 2. Will O'Neill wouldn't know a good computer system if it was stuck up his ass unless someone paid him enough to say, oh yeah, the system is the bomb. Big Dave. It has become increasingly harder to read an article in your magazine without someone pointing out that PCs are almost dead. Give it up already. Cobalt Corp. Yeah, I am not a fan of this letter section. I think it's just... There's no actual conversations happening. You know, that's kind of my problem with it, is that it's not like you write in with a worry, and with a couple of exceptions, like the violent image. It's not like they're responding to your concerns honestly. They're kind of just making fun of things. This is very like early internet troll type humor, which I did not remember in the earlier magazines that we've read. So I think we can sort of see, even just in this letter section, the internet troll humor starting to slowly take over. And again, not a fan. We have a Penny Arcade strip. The only way I'm going to get LucasArts to make my goddamn Star Wars game is if I actually work there. What would they hire you for? I can make the sound that the lightsaber makes. This guy's incredible. There's a Die Hard shooter game. Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza. Project EG2 Covert Strike, or Project IGI2 Covert Strike. Loading, the hottest shots of the best new games. World of Warcraft. Even while the countdown to Warcraft 3 continues, Blizzard is plugging away at the next game in the franchise, the massively multiplayer RPG World of Warcraft. Warcraft has always had a cool backstory set in a very detailed fantasy universe if you bother to pay attention to the cutscenes or read the manuals. So there's plenty of potential here for a compelling RPG. Blizzard's initial foray into first and third person perspective looks like it's coming along nicely. We feel like we've zoomed down from those overhead Warcraft maps right into the land of Azeroth. We can't wait to haul lumber around and say zug zug to each other. Now that's gaming. It's funny that this thing actually wouldn't happen in the actual game because there's a Treyant and this is clearly Elwyn Forest near Stormwind. Pro race driver. So you want to live the life of a professional race car driver, but Pfizer still won't give $20 million to sponsor your race team, even though you eat a bowl of Viagra every month for breakfast? No matter. Racing is dangerous business anyway. You're better off sitting at home in front of your PC playing Pro Race Driver, the highly realistic racer from the makers of 1999's Touring Car Challenge. You play as Ryan McCain, an aspiring test driver rising through the ranks of the racing world in a fully articulated narrative shown through the game in cutscenes. Pro Race Driver will come out on PC, Xbox, and PS2 in June of 2002. I wonder if this got like the TOCA license in Europe. Yeah, it had the TOCA license. I remember, yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Shadowbane. An unwritten motto with the Shadowbane development team is, don't get mad, get even. That translates into a very player versus player focused game in which it's better to kill other people than to kill monsters. If you get put down by some dork named Fizzle Brizzle, you go get buddies of yours and kill him twice even, for good measure. Plus, Shadowbane players can build entire cities, and in keeping with a theme of PvP destruction, other players can then knock their cities down. Look for these bloodsled-filled MMORPGs sometime this fall. Something tells me this game never actually came out. Shadowbane. Oh no, it did come out. It actually lasted 6 years, which is, decent. It looks like it was just just an okay MMORPG. I see a lot of 7 out of 10 reviews in places, so in a saturated market, a 7 out of 10 was not gonna hang. Icewind Dale 2. Also using the 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons. The Flak is back. Unreal Tournament 2003, poised for release by Terry Wen. 2.5 years after the Unreal Tournament blasted its way to success on PCs, the next wave of Unreal games is finally coming. Starting this summer, Unreal Tournament 2003 is to be Unreal Tournament sequel, and Unreal 2 is undergoing significant changes. That reminds me, I never actually played the first Unreal. That is definitely one that should go on the classical studies list. Unreal 1. After Epic VP Mark Rain announced that UT 2003, formerly UT2, would hit shelves in June, and that Unreal 2 was being pushed to Christmas, CGW went to the Game Developers Conference in San Jose, California to get some hands-on time with UT 2003. Epic is currently focused on developing its new engine, which will be used in their next project, tentatively titled Unreal Warfare. Digital Extremes designer James Schmaltz set us down for a primer on UT 2003. The name change reflects the fact that Epic thinks of Unreal Tournament as more than a first-person shooter. It's also a futuristic sports game to them. Most FPS games focus on action-filled narrative, but UT presents the action as an arena-style sport. Epic says that UT, just like any game in a sports franchise, will have a yearly designation in the title. Taking a sports analogy further, UT now has an active roster of bots in a single-player game. Players can take on the role of manager and draft bots as free agents to fight with them. Each bot has a specific salary, gameplay style, sneaky or aggressive, and preferred weapon, among other features, and it will grow and develop as the tournament progresses. Epic has revised much of the gameplay in favor of this new focus. They scrapped Assault mode because it had more military than sporting event feel, and they tweaked Domination mode and renamed it Double Domination. Rather than a series of control points to be captured, there are now just 2. To score, players have to capture and hold both control points for 5 seconds, which forces them to be focused and tactical in their thinking. Another new gameplay mode is Bombing Run, which is akin to football with weapons. Players need to run a bomb across the field to their opponent's goal and can easily pass the bomb among themselves in case the opposition is sniping the bomb runner. Weapons are more balanced, mostly to encourage teamwork and discourage room spamming. The rocket launcher now launches only 3 rockets instead of 6, so people can stop spamming a room with 6 rockets, committed schmaltz. The fragments in the flak cannon's primary fire bounce off walls only once, not several times. The impact hammer and pulse rifle have been balanced to encourage teamwork. The impact hammer's secondary fire is an energy shield. It can absorb any weapon fire head-on, but it drains ammo, works only directly in front of you, and prevents you from using any other weapon. The pulse rifle still shoots either energy bullets or a continuous beam, but if you aim the beam on a friendly player, it powers him up, and when it shoots his pulse rifle, it'll fire a yellow beam that does triple damage. If your buddy fires his yellow beam at another friendly, the third guy in the chain shoots a red beam, which can basically kill anything in a single hit, said Schmaltz. While it would be cool to have a 3-man fire team kicking ass with the red beam, it means that 2 guys remain vulnerable while powering up their buddy. The Enforcer pistol has been replaced with an assault rifle replete with rapid-fire bullets as the primary fire and grenades as the secondary fire. The sniper rifle is now a lightning gun, while most other weapons have undergone only visual changes. The Epic developers have completed approximately 30 levels as of press time, with about 15 or 20 more to go. The game takes place across several planets, each with its own design for levels and player models. Player models used to be limited to male, female, and alien with different color schemes, but now there is much greater variety, with some player types looking like they stepped off of the set of Stargate, and others looking like McFarlane-designed demon clowns and super high-tech anime robots. The next-gen Unreal Engine allows for environments like spooky alien rock formations and dense industrial pipeworks for the mainstay factory levels. With a Gay Force 4, is that how you would say it? Yeah, probably. Gay Force 4. Scenery was beautiful and ran at more than 100 frames per second, so it's playable on current machines and will take advantage of whatever NVIDIA brings us in the future. Unreal Tournament 2003 is shaping up to be a worthy follow-up to its CGW Game of the Year predecessor. They tried making Unreal Tournament annualized for a couple of years. I think 2003 did pretty well because it had been a few years since the first Unreal Tournament. And then they did it again in 2004, and I think they stopped because there just wasn't enough. Alright, moving on. Valve steams ahead. Half-Life developer pushes for online game sale by Lloyd Case. Gabe Newell foresees a future where everyone is broadband and everyone will buy games online. He made a shit ton of money for being able to correctly predict this. At this year's Game Developers Conference in San Jose, California, Newell, the founder and managing director of Valve Software, the people who brought you Half-Life, formally announced Steam, a method for buying and downloading games online. The downside is that it will require a broadband connection. When you buy a game, the core software is downloaded immediately. As you play, the game continues to download in the background, adding upcoming levels, new characters, and so on. Newell suggests that a typical game being played over a 500 kilobit DSL line will install faster than games that come on a retail CD. You can use Steam by downloading a small client that enables you to buy the software. It also has other features such as built-in online game browsers and an instant messaging client. Companies like NVIDIA and ATI may use Steam to incrementally upgrade video drivers. Steam will also limit cheating, as most of the software will reside on a centralized server. A theoretical Counter-Strike 2 might be completely server-based, so cheating becomes more difficult, but as EverQuest junkies will tell you, not impossible. Newell did not address potential privacy problems, even as he discussed the ability of game companies using Steam to track players' habits. Given their relatively slow penetration of broadband in the US, estimates range from 10 to 15%, retailers like EB and Best Buy don't have to worry quite yet. However, overseas households, particularly in Far Eastern countries like Korea and Japan, are getting broadband at a much faster clip. Korea has a stated goal of 80% of households having 20 megabit access by 2005. What does this mean for gamers? In the short run, not much. Valve will be releasing Counter-Strike Condition Zero simultaneously via Steam and retail. It's kind of crazy to sort of, see Steam before it became Steam, right? And while it's true that like Best Buy and GameStop are still there, they don't fucking sell PC games, right? They just don't. Like if you want to buy a PC game, you just purchase it online directly. That's it. Um, it's also cute that they're like talking about potential privacy problems, especially given today's modern age. And also this thing of being able to start playing while the game downloads in the background, I feel like never really came to fruition. Maybe for a little bit, like that's how consoles used to be. But I feel like these days, when a game tells you that it's ready to start playing, it really isn't, and you're just gonna wait for the whole download to be done. At least that's how I do it. Reality check. Reality check compares the ratings of the major gaming press with GameRankings.com, which averages all published reviews for a particular title. Renegade gets B minus. Disciples 2 gets an A minus. Frank Herbert's Dune, not good. CGW give it an F. IGN give it a B plus. Oh, okay. The fact that IGN has absolutely nothing below a B minus is maybe a little bit suspicious. Grandia 2 is B average. Kohan Ariman's Gift. I have no idea what this game is, but it seems to be pretty good. Serious Sam, the second encounter, the sequel to the one that we played, is B plus. Star Wars Starfighter is a B minus. Discovering games. It's interesting how a simple game like Bejeweled can command our attention. CGW feeds me lots of cool games, but for several days last month, this low-tech shareware puzzle game was all I could think about. Ha! 5 in a row. When you're ready for some real polygons, let us know, won't you, love? With increasing level of complexity and realism in newer games, it's a wonder why such visually simple creations can survive at all, much less thrive. In decades past, such simple abstract forms were a matter of design. They were all the technology could handle. Today, it's more likely to be a matter of choice. As in any creative field, there are bound to be those who revere the simplicity of the good old days, an instinct no doubt motivated in some part by nostalgia. But even though the progress of gaming technology has led us consistently down the road to realism, it's not clear that simpler abstract forms will ever disappear from the entertainment landscape. Not everything we make has to be a perfect replica of the world around us. We often cut the world into shapes that, while they may reflect nature's rules, are still deliberately new and artificially conceived. And elegant simplicity is still valued in everything from art to fashion to music. It may also be a bit comforting in a world where the rules and resources of our day-to-day games keep changing to enter a world where no matter how complex the gameplay is, the rules and resources are reliably simple and unchanging. Most importantly, though, we're abstract thinkers, using signs and symbols to understand the world. And when a good game comes along that offers a world of nothing but shapes and sign, it may be hard to escape its diabolical spell. I feel maybe a little called out about the good old days of nostalgia, which is kind of the whole purpose of this project. But he's not right? I mean, today we're starting to get the nostalgia wave for the like PS1, Nintendo 64 graphics style games, right? There starts to be a bit of a current for that. So it's just fascinating to see how people making games now just want to remake the games that they loved when they were kids, in a way, right? Command & Conquer does World War III. Command & Conquer Generals is next up from EA's RTS Factory, by Rob Smolka. Brace yourself, CNC fans. EA is taking its hugely popular real-time strategy game in a whole new direction next time around with the recently announced Command & Conquer Generals. Unlike the previous iterations that focus on fictional combatants, NOD and GDI, or historically based what-if scenarios, Generals will focus on the near future. Real-life 21st century warfare starring the superpowers of the United States and China. Also involved in the fray will be a faction called itself the Global Liberation Army, a huger underground organization more concerned with spreading terror than actually liberating anyone, Obviously, our current efforts to rid the world of this menace have been unsuccessful. This paragraph and this type of game, is a time and place of like the early aughts, right? When terrorism became a thing. I mean, it's always been a thing, right? They were hijacking of planes in the 70s and 80s and, things related to that. But the September 11 attacks in New York and on the Pentagon really changed the way that people thought about that stuff. And so it made sense that in those days there was a major component of what a lot of these realistic war games we're going to be talking about. General success at the cash register is almost guaranteed. The franchise has sold some 17 million games already. But that doesn't mean that developer EA Pacific, the team responsible for Red Alert 2 and Yuri's Revenge, is content to rest on its laurels. The goal is to deliver the solid gameplay that fans have come to expect, while raising the bar in the eye candy department. According to Mark Skaggs, general manager of EA Pacific and executive producer of the game, Generals will give gamers a Hollywood version of modern war with intense combat and spectacular special effects. Each of the 3 combatants will have access to the personnel and weapons of war found on today's battlefields, as well as some items that today's military has in development. The US will have elite pilots who can double as tank drivers or snipers if they are shot down, Crusader tanks that can cross any terrain, and detention camps that help show the enemy the errors of their ways. The Chinese player will have the seismic tank, a siege weapon perfect for knocking down buildings, the propaganda blimp, which drops encouraging messages down to the troops and makes them fight harder, and hackers that will wreak havoc with the enemy's radar, intelligence, and communications. And don't cat out the GLA. Even if their tech is outdated, they make up for it with sheer numbers. Their tools of war consist of angry mobs and massive Scud missile launches that, while inaccurate in aim, cover so much area that aim just doesn't matter. The team has created a new 3D engine called Sage to deliver the visuals. This engine can render striking terrain, whether it's a cityscape, desert, or frozen tundra. You'll be able to run over cars with tanks, see the windows get blown out of huge buildings, and witness many other highlights that will bring the battlefield to life. Along with a single-player campaign, Generals will offer a multiplayer mode over LAN and the internet, as well as map editor so you can create your own modern war scenarios. Prepare to take command this winter. Extended Play Homebrew by T. Burrell Baker. New life for all games. Half-Life has to be the best gaming value of all time. There are many other games that have been on my hard drive since 1998, and it's all thanks to the endless stream of mods. Most recently, the highly anticipated Desert Crisis and the latest beta of the popular action Half-Life appeared, so it looks like things aren't going to slow down in 2002. Oh, and did I mention someone finally finished the Matrix Total conversion for Max Payne? Desert Crisis. At long last, the Desert Crisis team has taken the lid off this barrel of whoop-ass. Desert Crisis is a big, brash, but definitely not beautiful total conversion for Half-Life that aims to depict combat in the near future and nails a bullseye. Traditional assault rifles, frag grenades, and shotguns are mixed with laser pistols, plasma cannons, and other futuristic weaponry. What really sets it apart are the perks like stealth, extra speed, and sharpshooting skills, all of which you can select before the match begins. The level textures are bland, but the animations and gameplay more than make up for it. The drawback is that only experts need to apply, as both the mod and its players are merciless. Action Half-Life Beta 5.0. If you missed Action Half-Life in its earlier incarnations, don't make the same mistake this time. Many of the bugs that plagued previous versions have been eradicated, and everything from the weapons to the levels has been tuned to near perfection. Stunts are easy to pull off as ever, and newcomers will be diving, rolling, and throwing themselves through plate glass windows in true cinematic fashion within the first hour of launching the mod. Surviving, unfortunately, isn't so easy, and there are plenty of wannabe movie stars waiting online to take your head off with a single well-placed shot, or throw if they're partial to knives. True Matrix total conversion for Max Payne. The one we've all been waiting for. Max Payne, which co-opted elements from the Matrix, has now been co-opted by the Matrix. Several earlier mods are packaged in this all-in-one release, providing those who can handle the 80 megabyte plus download. 2002 was a different time, huh? With an experience that is nearly indistinguishable from the lobby action scene in the movie. The lobby map is included, as is the popular Kung Fu mod, a Neo skin, complete with flowing trench coat, and several new weapons. Look for True Matrix Mod2.zip at fileplanet.com. I definitely played this Max Payne mod. I remember it. You could like blow up the columns up to a certain point in the hallway. Again, that was really a time and place. I should add, I'm really not familiar with the Command and Conquer series. Let's put it on the classical studies list. Dungeon Siege. This is like a Diablo light in a way. They did sort of an interesting thing where your character could specialize, like based on the weapon that they used, they would specialize in different things. But it was not that particularly deep. I have a soft spot for Dungeon Siege 2. So that's one that we might get to at some point. Call him the Merlinator. Age of Wonders 2: The Wizard's Throne by Robert Coffey. The best news about my hands-on time with a beta version of Age of Wonders 2: The Wizard's Throne? No sign of the hideous memory leak that killed my enjoyment of the first game. Free to play the game, I found a lot to like. I dabbled in a number of the game's mini-campaigns. Each of these smaller sequences of maps limits your in-game avatar to just using one of the 6 realms of magic in the game. Fire, water, air, earth, life, and death. While some gamers may be put off by this, learning the nuances and strategies that each spell school afforded only deepened the strategy and forced me to adapt constantly. It is a refreshing change from relying on one favorite super spell as you do in some other games. From the very first mission of the campaign, maps were enormous, dotted with teleport stations that made the often arduous march across the landscape much easier. The maps of the Heroes of Might and Magic series, Age of Wonders' closest cousin, were vast as well, but the maps in Wizard's Throne require more technical thinking along with lines of the turn-based Warlords games. Slowly expanding and holding my empire was challenging, especially against an AI that, although still in need of some serious balancing, was unrelentingly aggressive and wanting to take risks to defeat me. After a few hours of playing, though, I found myself auto-resolving actual combat more frequently and focusing more on the big picture of the game. Maybe it's because the conflicts lack the cartoonish verve of the Hero series, or, more likely, because the game isn't finished, but I found those battles to be flat and uninvolving. This wasn't the case in the first Age of Wonders, so I'm betting that element will be tweaked and improved prior to release. Visually, the game is still remarkable with elaborate spell effects and rich, vibrant world maps. With 3 other turn-based fantasy games coming out this year, developer Triumph Studios needs to make every minute count until Age of Wonders 2's release early this summer to make sure their game stands out from the pack. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. PC game heaven. Wow, someone pinch us. Preferably someone really good looking. Because right now, this feels like a dream. After a depressing drought of good PC games, we are now experiencing a veritable flood. And boy does it feel good. Jedi Outcast, Freedom Force, Dungeon Siege, Heroes 4 all in 1 week, with more big ones like Unreal Tournament 2003 right around the corner, in case you were wondering. We'll love our jobs. Taco Bell. The bad. Taco Bell closes in SF. The only thing better than playing games all day for money is playing games all day for money while eating cheap, gut-rotting junk food. Of all the cheap, gut-rotting junk food near the CGW office in San Francisco, the cheapest and the most gut-rotting was Taco Bell, which is why the self-loading Jeff Green ate so much. But now, incredibly, we must mourn its passing, as all the SF Taco Bells have closed down probably as a gesture to humanity. Oh, and Chirito, how we love thee. The ugly. The blame game. Ugh, not again. The tragic suicide of a 21-year-old Wisconsin man is not something we take lightly, and in no way do we intend any disrespect here. But the claim that EverQuest was somehow responsible for his actions is just the same old spurious cry from the same old ambulance-chasing, publicity-seeking group of blowhards. Comic books, rock and roll, rap music, there's always something to blame, right? It's called parenting, folks. Look into it. True. I do think ChatGPT falls in a different category. Where if somebody decides to kill themselves because ChatGPT suggested them to, that's bad. That's very bad. Alright. Dragon Throne. Never heard of this one. a cheap Three Kingdom RTS type game, it looks like. Big Mummer Department, Knights of the Old Republic. BioWare Star Wars RPG is coming, but it's on Xbox first, by Terry Wen. BioWare surprised gamers everywhere in February when they announced that epic in the making Knights of the Republic will be coming to the Xbox this fall, with the PC version of the RPG pushed up to next spring. I know PC gamers who think that BioWare has sold out to the consoles should remember that the same company released MDK2 for the Dreamcast first and followed it with the PC editions a few months later. But MDK2 didn't suffer from the console first release. In fact, the PC release turned out to be as good, if not better, than the Dreamcast version. Reasons given for the release date shuffle range from BioWare wanting KOTOR to be the first great RPG for the Xbox, to not wanting the PC version on shelves at the same time that Star Wars Galaxy is due to hit. Then again, knowing Star Wars fans, two great Star Wars games at the same time isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we can see why LucasArts would encourage the staggering of the release dates. Both BioWare and LucasArts have said that they are committed to making sure that each version will take full advantage of its specific platform. The only differences mentioned specifically so far regard the interface. Look for more details on how the game plays later in the year. Here's what we know now. It will be viewed in third-person perspective with BioWare's new Odyssey engine. It will be filled with action-style minigames. The player will control a party of 3 characters. Action will span 10 Star Wars worlds, and the story will take place in a time when the Jedi were everywhere. If BioWare maintains its stellar track record, Knights of the Old Republic will be worth waiting for. If you're pondering getting an Xbox for this game, consider that you'll have to wait only a few more months for the PC version. Just because BioWare has sold out doesn't mean you have to. Maybe a little harsh, but with the last sentence. But yeah, this was BioWare at its best and shiniest, right? Neverwinter Nights. I think the main campaign has some people iffy about it, but Knights of the Republic is by all means a masterpiece. And then, we get to BioWare today, and it's just like, it's not quite the same. Newsfeed. The Sims hit number 1. In just a little more than 2 years, The Sims has become the best-selling PC game of all time, according to Electronic Arts, ending the long reign of the previous leader, Myst. More than 6.3 million copies and counting have been shipped worldwide, putting the popular People Simulator in the catbird seat. Not bad for a game that was turned down by nearly every publisher when creator Will Wright first shopped the project around. Lineage 2 to use Unreal Engine. Lineage the Blood Pledge may be the biggest massively multiplayer game in the world, with 4 million subscribers, as the publisher, South Korea-based NCSoft, constantly tells everyone. But in the US, it's still relatively unknown. That should change with Lineage 2, the recently announced prequel to the first game. NCSoft says that the game will be powered by Epic's Unreal Engine for a state-of-the-art 3D experience. NCSoft made more news this month by announcing that they'll be publishing a Cryptic Studios comic book-style superhero MMORPG, City of Heroes, which has been generating lots of early buzz. More on that game as it develops. Blizzard fools their fans. Indulging in a proud tradition, Blizzard Entertainment fooled and frightened numerous fans on April 1st with the announcement of a stunning last-minute change to the upcoming Warcraft 3. The announcement? They were adding an entirely new race to the game, the Pandorans. And who are the Pandorans? The mighty race of panda bear warriors. What's curious is that they managed to fool more than a few people. This was the base for them putting Chen Stormstout into the Frozen Throne expansion as sort of a playable hero, which then would eventually lead to Mists of Pandaria in World of Warcraft. So it all started because somebody was like, it would be fucking funny if we just tell people that they can play as pandas in Warcraft 3, and somebody else went like, oh shit, that's hilarious. Yeah, let's make an April Fool's joke out of that. And then, 5 years later, people are like, our fan base really likes this panda stuff. Should we actually make it? Funny how the internet worked back in the day. Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness. Lara Croft is reborn in a spanking new sexy spelunker that Eidos swears won't suck, by Rob Smolka. Eidos lied. Say what you will about the endless sequels that sucked harder than a Hoover on high and turned the series into a little more than a punchline among hardcore gamers, the original Tomb Raider was a game that set precedents for both the consoles and PC when it was released back in 1996. Not only did Tomb Raider establish the path for third-person adventure games, it created a phenomenon outside normal gaming circles with its voluptuous heroine, and showed that you could market a game character that wasn't named Mario or Sonic. 6 years later, Eidos and developer Core Design are poised to reinvigorate Lara's fans with Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness. The first step is to bring the look of the series up to modern standards, and the new graphics engine should have no problem in this regard. Lara alone will be made up of about 5,000 polygons, a tenfold increase from earlier games. The monumental leap in the level of detail will carry over to the architecture and the foes she encounters. Everything about the new Tomb Raider is more complex than in the past, including the story. Von Croy, Lara's old mentor, summons her to Paris to help track down some 14th century paintings for a client named Eckhart. Upon her arrival, she finds her mentor has been murdered and framed for the crime of the missing paintings, and now she must try to get to the bottom of things. As she follows the clues, she'll have to get involved in some seedy business that's a far cry from the world of raiding tombs. Overall, The Angel of Darkness is likely to appeal to a much more mature gamer. Adrian Smith, Operation Director at Core Design, says, "Our vision is to take the players somewhere dark, a place they might not necessarily wish to go, but a place they will have to venture if they are to bring Lara back. Lara will have some tough moral choices to make. It's no longer a clear-cut case of good versus evil. This is a more complex tale, which will ask more complex questions of the player. It will be a new experience for people who have played Tomb Raider in the past. We've been promised big things before by Eidos about the Tomb Raider games, and most of the time we've been disappointed when we got our hands on the final product. But with the return of Core, the implementation of a brand new graphics engine, and the promise of a story and character depth that has been sorely needed for many years, we have to admit that it sounds like Lara may regain her place among the elite. We'll see whether we're crying wolf again sometime toward the end of the year." Now, I remember that this is really bad. I don't remember why it's bad. I don't know if it's bugs, or The Angel of Darkness game. Is it bugs? Is it poor design? Where's the reception? Metacritic average of 52 and 49 for the PS2 and Windows version, respectively. They praised the game's storyline, graphics, sound, and environments, but there are terrible bugs in system requirements and poor controls, combat system, and camera movement. Okay. I guess it's not as terrible as I thought. I thought it was going to be much worse. Sounds like that they got a good story. But frame rate dips, and it just feels terrible to play, which is, not great. Grippa7 of GameSpot called the experience frustrating, difficult, and tedious. It was placed 5th in the Game Trailer's top 10 worst sequels list. I kind of want to see what's the... Oh, it's a YouTube video? Yeah, no, thank you. I'm curious what would be number 1. But, yeah, I guess it is. So, they're being very hard on Tomb Raider early on. I think that's unfair. I think, from my understanding, and this is purely from an outsider perspective, I owned Tomb Raider 3 because when the family got a computer, I don't know, I guess it was like the, Tomb Raider had pierced that level of pop culture that only Mario and Zelda and Sonic had managed to. And Tomb Raider 3 was, I think, the latest game at that time, and so that's why we got it. I never managed to get past the first biome of it. But, I was also, in elementary, early middle school still. So it's, it's not it's not surprising that I wasn't necessarily able to finish it. From my understanding, Tomb Raiders 1 and 4 are by far the best of the original bunch. 2, 3, and 5 are okay. And Angel of Darkness was not good. The anniversary versions and those soft reboots, that era of Xbox 360 ones, like early Xbox 360 ones and PS2 ones, I think are considered pretty decent, all things considered. I'm big fan of the new reboot, the one that had Camilla Luddington portraying Lara Croft. Um, I think that's a series that had a case of diminishing returns. That's Tomb Raider remake, or not remake because it's not a remake. Tomb Raider reboot from what 2016 or whatever it was. Absolutely fucking fantastic. Love it to death. Play through it time and time and time again. Such a good game. I love the setting. I love the Metroidvania aspects of it. The gameplay is fantastic. And then they fucking made it open world. And that part I was not a fan of. And so 2 and especially 3 are very diminishing returns for me for that series. Are they working on anything related to it anymore? My guess is not. At least nothing is officially announced. Yeah, the last one is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Rise of the Tomb Raider, that's what it was called. Yeah, there hasn't been... Oh, 2013 was the reboot. And then, shit, it's been a full 7 years since we've had a new Tomb Raider, if we don't count the remasters. And hopefully there's something more to come for Lara, but it definitely will have to kind of be rebooted. Anyways, moving on. This is not gaming related, so let's just skip that little bottom. CGW Top 20. Number 1, Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Going on the list. Number 2, surprisingly, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I'm familiar with the PlayStation game. I should maybe check that one out to put it on the list. This is probably more of a hidden gem. Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone, PC. The rating is fine, right? It's a 7 out of 10-ish, but it seems to be very popular. Then there's a bunch of Sims. In fact, there's The Sims itself, and then the Hot Date expansion pack, and the Live and Large expansion pack. Also, look at the prices. Medal of Honor was $50. Harry Potter was only $28. Serious Sam, the Second Encounter was $18. There's a Diablo 2 expansion there. Held over from the summer, I suppose, because that's when it would have released. Ooh, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein. Rest of it is fine. There's Age of Empires 2 must have had a sale to go up. Five, 10, 15 years ago in computer gaming world. 5 years ago, June 97. We are ashamed to be gamers. Forget the very regrettable Daikatana cover this month. The real shame lurked on the page 13 in the ad for Game Wizards. These CD-ROM products help you beat the year's hottest games using actual game video to guide you. Fine. But why, oh dear sweet lord above, why oh why did they pay sad, desperate phone sex employees to dress up in the leather S&M outfits to host the thing as FMV Game Wizards? 5 minutes of these half-naked dominatrices telling you which block to push in Tomb Raider, and you couldn't get the ick off with a belt sander. Wow, that seems something to look into. 10 years ago, June 1992, once upon a time, long before Enron, people liked the stock market. Well, at least we thought so. This issue saw the premiere of CGW Stock Watch, a monthly feature in which we tracked the NASDAQ fortunes of 5 companies. More interesting would have been a line graph tracking the rapidly waning interest of readers in this column. It would have looked about as exciting as the 5 graphs littering that page. It's an interesting idea, but not when you're selling to teenagers or below who don't have any money to invest and don't particularly care for the stock market. 15 years ago, June 1987, ads for 2 magazines spotlighted the growing pains of gaming. On page 21 was a full-page ad for Run 5, a unique computer gaming magazine that shipped each quarterly issue with a floppy containing new game scenarios, notes, and design kits. This would be the future. The past. Turn to page 5 for a tiny ad for Paper Mayhem, the informative PBM magazine. They'd been in business since 1993. They wouldn't be for much longer. Unreal Tournament 2003. June. Oh, in 2002 they released the one called 2003. I feel like it released in Europe way later. But Pipeline. Our latest guesses about when those games are finally shipping. Estimating software release dates is like trying to predict which movie will be snubbed at next year's Oscars, though we have a gut feeling it may involve Little Men with Hairy Feet again. These dates represent the best available info we had at press time. If your publisher, send us updates at cgwletters@ziffdavis.com. Number 1. 13. Gaming just got weirder. Ubisoft recently announced 13, an action game that will create an interactive graphic novel based on a popular Belgian comic book. The game will actually look like cell animation, think anime, and will somehow use the Unreal 2 technology to do this. It makes little sense and sounds very unusual, but we are sure intrigued. More should be revealed at E3. That goes on the list. Hitman 2. After cutting their earnings forecast again, Eidos looks to be in dire straits. They need a hit badly, and as Hitman 2 is the best chance they have, they're postponing the game until September, ostensibly to make it as good as possible. However, despite one good preview trailer, the game's website is still completely devoid of any interesting information on the game. Eidos needs to get the marketing going. Master of Orion 3. Senior producer Konstantin Hansopoulos released a statement saying that during a regular examination of the state of Master of Orion 3 project, both Infogrames and Quicksilver agreed that the game would benefit from extending its release date to the third quarter of 2002. In other words, they're running late. But we're glad Infogrames is giving this one the time it needs. Duke Nukem Forever, fall 2008. Actual release date of Duke Nukem Forever? 2011. Still, not bad compared to... When was Duke Nukem Forever announced? When was it announced? Holy shit. It was announced in 97. 19 fucking 7. That is insane. I have no idea what made that noise. Alright. Yeah, I guess there's no point in looking down these release dates. Ads for stuff. Hotel Giant. I remember this one too. Preview. Sum of All Fears. The unstoppable Clancy machine turns on a tactical shoot and sneak fest. Other than Sid Meier and Will Wright, the only other personality in the game industry whose name on a box cover guarantees healthy sales numbers is Tom Clancy. Red Storm's series of tactical simulators based on Clancy novels, beginning with Rainbow Six and most recently resulting in Ghost Recon, have not only been successful, they've remained at the forefront of a genre they helped create. The latest game is spawning not only from one of Clancy's books, but from a movie too. Throughout the summer, the film Sum of All Fears finds Clancy's intrepid hero Jack Ryan, this time being played by Ben Affleck, trying to stop terrorists from detonating a nuclear bomb at the Super Bowl. The game, which will be released concurrently, doesn't put you in the role of Jack Ryan or play through the movie scene by scene. Instead, it will put you in the shoes of a counter-terrorist team member who must track the terrorist conspirators from West Virginia to Saudi Arabia to South Africa. Red Storm built some of Fears with the enhanced version of Ghost Recon Engine, and has continued to simplify and strip down gameplay to be much more accessible than the original Rainbow Six or Rogue Spear games. Planning has been eliminated completely from the game. You'll get predetermined mission parameters directly from headquarters. You won't outfit the individual members of your 3-man team. Instead, you'll simply choose a weapon set, assault, stealth, sniper, and so on, and each member of your team will be outfitted accordingly. Control over teammates is limited as well. Your commands will involve simple tasks like breach and clear, otherwise your squad is mostly there for additional cover. Some missions involve other squads which are completely scripted. Once you complete a task like killing a guard or opening a locked door, they'll automatically move to the next position and execute their orders. Even in the somewhat early version of the game I saw, the scripting looks seamless and gives supporting squads the appearance of intelligent bots. Since Some of Fears marks a return to close-quarter style combat made popular by the Rainbow Six games, weapons that were modeled in Ghost Recon have been programmed into Some of Fears. Flashbangs are in now, as well as shotgun technology. In fact, the devastating Pancor Jackhammer automatic shotgun is there, just in case you wanted to turn a terrorist into a raw hamburger. The levels that Red Storm showed me included a TV station, a backwoods militia compound, a power station nestled in Desert Canyon, and an Ornette bank. The levels were great, as do the models. The Ghost Recon engine really has a lot more power than the engine in older Red Storm games like Rogue Spear. While the single-player storyline appears compelling and should draw the fans of the movie as well as the book, what really excited me was the multiplayer. All the typical modes are there, like Team Deathmatch and Domination. In addition, the developers are playing around with newer versions that may or may not make it into the game. Options like Cat and Mouse and inverted variation on the Playground Classic tag. Those tag sim fans out there who are worried that this game won't be hardcore enough for their taste, well, they may be right. The people who play more action-oriented games like Counter-Strike or TAC Ops should find Some of Fears right up their alley when the game releases and the movie this July. Yeah, it seems to me like this is kind of not a good thing, right? They're taking something that was working or something that was, a good kind of thing, and just turn it into a more action-y style game, which, I mean, this stinks of them doing it to, widen their audience, right? They're like, we've tapped the tactical games market as much as we can, and it's not enough, and so we're going to use this blockbuster movie, and just, make it more of a shooty game so more people buy it. I don't know that it's going to pay off, but I guess we'll see in some future issue. Icewind Dale 2. Get your 3rd edition Chop 'em Up D&D Dork Party started by Terry Wen. Some days you want epics like The Lord of the Rings, and some days you want pure sword-swinging action a la Conan the Barbarian. Icewind Dale was the tightly focused, combat-only sibling to Baldur's Gate, and Black Isle is bringing more kill-killology with Icewind Dale 2. Icewind Dale 2 uses 3rd edition D&D, so everything is easier to understand and more playable. Any race can be any class, and any class can use any weapon. On one hand, this allows for killer combinations like the Halfling Monks. On the other hand, it means that although your wizard can use halberds, he may not do very well with them. Other factors in character generation are sub-races and feats. Sub-races include both the well-known, Drow Elves, and the new, Aasimar humans or Ghostwise Halflings. The sub-races are balanced in having extra abilities by being a level behind the default race, i.e. a Gold Dwarf Paladin will be a level behind an equivalent generic Dwarf Paladin. Feats are similar to Fallout's perks in that every few levels you get a new ability such as Dirty Fighting, the chance to blind or disable your opponent, or Arterial Strike, less damage but causes a bleeding wound. The 3rd edition rules mean that the kits from Baldur's Gate 2 aren't in anymore. However, J.E. Sawyer, designer, notes, with all of the classes, sub-races, and feats, you can pretty much recreate any kit you want. Instead of flashy-looking spells, we made a bunch of spells that are actually useful, commented Sawyer. Such spells include Aegis, a level 8 spell that instantly casts just about every protective spell, making the caster invincible for a short while. Or Flancing, which slashes the target for d4 damage per level and causes bleeding wounds. A level 20 wizard can cast that on an important target and watch the victim get hit by blades 20 times in a row. The plot of the game entails a battle between the 10 towns and a goblinoid horde, and your ragtag band of mercenaries is sent in to do goblinoid smiting. There's a larger variety of locations this time, including a haunted forest, a jungle hideout, and an ancient ice temple and monastery. The original Icewind Dale was all about Monty Hall style hack and slash, while this one will be hack and slash with puzzles. Taking a cue from Trials of the Lore Master expansion, Icewind Dale 2 will have mini puzzles to break up the action. For example, you run into a giant tic-tac-toe grid and have to place your X on a square. You have to beat up a monster in one-on-one combat. The physical area is the same as before, but with the addition of the puzzles, it should take longer to get through the original. This new interface is more akin to that in Planescape Torment than previous Infinity Engine games, with most of the interface located on the bottom of the screen. Most of it is occupied by the chat box and an area of menu buttons, with character icons and combat options neatly stacked on top. The inventory screens has 3 rows of slots instead of 2, and allows for multiple weapons combinations. Finally, you can easily switch among a 2-handed weapon, a bow, and a sword and shield combo without having to go into the inventory and drag items out as you did in previous games. Icewind Dale 2 looks like the sequel that actually builds on the lessons from the original. While you're waiting for epic sprawls like Everwinter Nights, Icewind Dale 2 will be there for your hacking pleasure. Did this come out before Neverwinter Nights? I thought it came after. Icewind Dale 2. This was released August 27, 2002. Neverwinter Nights, the original, was released in June. No, so yeah, Neverwinter Nights beat Icewind Dale 2 to market by a couple months. Fascinating how that happens. Alright, okay, moving on. GTA 3 coming soon to PC. Star Wars Galaxies. Attack of the Clones doesn't nearly describe the unique vision for this galactic game. Playing with Star Wars toys used to be the only way to immerse yourself in the Star Wars universe. Not anymore. Let's just make EverQuest in space. That was the first thing the developers of Star Wars Galaxies made sure not to have as a design goal. They don't expect to camp at an Ewok spawn point and yell incessantly for SOWs and buffs. Star Wars Galaxies isn't just going to be a Monty Hall... That's not how you spell that name. Monty Hall style fight and loot game with a chat window stapled on top, like, say, EverQuest, Dark Age of Camelot, Asheron's Call, Anarchy Online. It's going to offer a giant virtual society with Star Wars trappings. Think of something you'd like to do, and odds are you can probably do it. Do you want to run a seedy tavern in Mos Eisley? Do you want to zip around the landscapes of Naboo in pursuit of a bounty? Excuse me. You want to take a group of friends out Rancor hunting, and then maybe relax at Jabba's palace afterwards. The developers at Sony Online Entertainment in Austin let me in their doors to see everything there is to see about Star Wars Galaxies, with the exception of death. I was able to get info on the new planet, character generation, the interface, the static hit point system, and the process of becoming a Jedi. But here's how I'd sum it up. This game is going to be absolutely huge. I want to be a Wookiee. How will you join the galaxy? Lead system designer Anthony Castoro said that they're still bouncing ideas around, but they're working on a customs metaphor in which you start a game seeing an Imperial customs officer. The officer will ask you for your name and race, and that's where you can tweak your appearance. The facial customization process is extremely detailed. For noses alone, you can manipulate a series of sliders to customize bridge length, nostril flare, and so forth. Different species have different attributes to customize. Mon Calamari can adjust eye spacing and gullet size. Rhodians can change snout length and antennae size, and Wookiees can fiddle with the patches of fur that cover their bodies. The officer will then ask what your profession is. Novice player can choose from basic templates, roles like farmer, soldier, or dancer, which automatically allocate the required starting skills. If you're a more advanced player, you can skip these templates and allocate skill points yourself. Actual profession names are still being finalized, but expect options ranging from smuggler to chef. After you've designed your character, the officer will ask which planet you want to go to, and you'll board a shuttle that jets you off into the newbie areas. As of press time, the announced planets are Tatooine, Naboo, Corellia, and Solzone planet, Talus, a sister planet to Corellia, Forest Moon of Endor, Yavin 4, and Dathomir. See sidebar on page 69. Control. You must learn Control. In terms of interface, Sunny Online has learned its lessons from EverQuest, so expect something much easier and friendlier in Star Wars Galaxies. Remember accidentally attacking NPC guards because you hit A in EverQuest? All commands are delivered via the mouse or the F keys. The mouse controls both the targeting reticle, your primary tool, and the camera, and the mouse wheel easily takes you between first and third person views. You generally just need to hold down the left mouse button to see a menu of options, such as Initiate Combat, Talk With, Examine, or Trade. In fact, doing everything with the mouse and F keys leaves the keyboard free to be mostly used for socializing. Ralph Coaster, creative director, even eliminated the enter key hurdle, so you'll just start typing to talk. I figured that people play these games to chat or kill things, he said, so we removed that small but annoying obstacle. Character dialogue is displayed in chat bubbles as well as in the chat box a la Ultima Online or Phantasy Star Online. Additionally, you can set a mood such as happy, and your character will always have a certain expression. Whether you're chatting, and your characters will always have a certain expression, whether you're chatting or showing a social move like dance. These visual options are key for races like Wookiee who can't learn Basic, the common language of the galaxy, and must rely on gestures to convey emotions. The heads-up display is standard fare, featuring a chat box or radar map in the lower left corner, and a data pad on the lower right that shows features like inventory, mission log, and so forth. All these windows are movable and transparent, and you can expand the chat box or reduce it to a single line. Not just player versus player, but player with player. More than any other game, Star Wars Galaxies sets out to create a virtual society. The player-driven economy is just one facet of this vision. The player crafting process is completely new. You're not just a lone blacksmith banging repeatedly on components, you are now one cog in an economic wheel. Boy. Players can be designers, miners, manufacturers, transporters, and merchants. One player designs a rifle and sends a schematic to a manufacturer, who gets another player to mine resources for creating the item, and then sends the finished rifles to a merchant to stock in her store. All the while, there will be courier players moving everything around. You can't do it all yourself. If you choose to be an advanced droid manufacturer, you need to get your designs and components from other players. Why take part in this chain? If the team's plan comes together, player-crafted items will be of much better quality than anything you get, either as a random item drop from an NPC or from an NPC merchant. Each item will have a label that specifies who designed it, so a player can get a bit of rep for making quality guns, droids, or what have you. In fact, crafting has undergone another change. You don't increase your skill by churning out items. Rather, your character improves the more people use your items. If you make a rifle, sell it to someone, and log off, you can log back on and get an experience point down based on how often your customers shop things. It's results-oriented, commented Coaster. The player-driven economy is just one area in which the developers are working to drive player community formation, as Coaster put it. There is such an emphasis on community that the design calls for NPCs to be almost irrelevant. Not only will player drive the economy, they'll also drive missions, which can range from acting as courier for goods to being someone's bodyguard. An interesting addition to the mission structure is the bond. Most missions are given by other players, but what would prevent someone from saying, "Sure, I'll bring this design schematic from Tatooine to your friend in Yavin," and then pocketing the item? Mission creators, thus, will have the option of issuing a bond. Player accepting missions put their money up as the bond, and will get the bond back only when they have successfully completed the mission. If they fail, not only do players lose the bond money, but the bond money becomes then a bounty fee, and a bounty hunter player can accept the mission and receive the failed bond as a reward. Bounty missions are distributed randomly, so you can scheme with your friends to purposely fail a mission, have a large bounty posted on you, let your friends take you down, and split the loot. Met Jedi skills. Even skill advancement is player-driven. Acquiring some of the most advanced skills in the game requires working with other players. Coaster said, "The most advanced skills in a game will not be taught by any NPC. Players will have to form a city, build Build a guild dedicated to certain profession, and only then will those skills be teachable, Castoro added. Skill advancement is capped and is controlled by whether or not players form a city and then put down the necessary guild. Skill advancement via player cooperation also happens on a more personal level, as Castoro explained. Advanced players who want to access their high-level skills are required to teach new players. If you were a novice marksman, expert marksmen now have a reason to come along, give you tips, help you shoot things, and help you level faster, Coaster interjected. We're basically institutionalizing twinking. The game is skills-based and doesn't even have leveling. Instead of being a level 4 scout, you're a veteran or master scout. The emphasis on skills, rather than levels, further embodies the social dynamic behind the game. Coaster also said an interesting MMO design bomb on me. Your stats and hit points don't go up. The health, mind, and body stats, i.e. hit points, mana, and stamina, won't increase at all, only your skills will. Castor elaborated. When I have higher level skills, I'm still going to be better than you. But since I have the same amount of hit points, it hurts me just as much as it hurts you when a monster hits one of us, Coaster concluded. The master who has mastered just about every skill he can get, and the novice who happens to have the one skill the master doesn't, can group together. Also, you don't have to worry about being 5 levels above your friend and not being able to group together. Anyone can basically group with anyone else. The skill system answers questions like how a dancer can be useful in gameplay or whether there are spellcasters in Star Wars Galaxies. Gamers who play as dancers or musicians get to fulfill their weird role-playing fetish, and their skills help combat-focused players recover health, body, mind points faster. Right after a big battle, you will actually want to pay to see a good Twilight dancer. And since Jedi are the only magicians in Star Wars, there are viable explanations for buffs, leadership, survival skills, and nukes, a combination of ranged combat and a certain type of blasters, for gamers who like playing spellcasters but can figure out how to become Jedi. Die, rebels, come! The game takes place after A New Hope and before The Empire Strikes Back, so the Galactic Civil War is still in full swing, which is where factions and player versus player come into play. Fisher describes the battlefield, which is a trial PvP area. For example, an Imperial outpost could spawn in Tatooine, which creates a boundary. When you cross this boundary, you're asked, which side of the war are you on? Custer describes the area as a miniature version of Counter-Strike, where players of 2 factions compete in the area. If you die within the boundary, you spawn outside of it and are no longer allowed in. Whichever side wins gains control of the area, which mostly translates to either stormtroopers or rebel NPCs patrolling the area. So you get a taste for the PvP war aspect of the game without much detrimental effect to you. PvP comes into play after you declare yourself aligned with the Rebellion, Imperial, or Hot factions. Once you've declared, you're allowed player to kill players who have allied themselves with the opposing factions, and you gain access to certain missions and items. Player associations, the Star Wars Galaxies version of guilds, that have declared have the options to build structures, bases for Imperials or Rebels, hideouts for the Hutts, which can act as safe houses and even spawn-friendly NPCs. Another place for PvP is a wild area, which is not a free-for-all like Darktide National Scholar or Red Server on EverQuest, said Coster. You can attack anyone you want in a wild area, but your victim can report you, which may result in your PvP raids being suspended. Now, if you're role-playing some evil alien who kills for fun, then your victim might not feel like reporting you. If you're reported, however, you have to seek forgiveness from either your victim or from a player town. With the wild areas and the battlefields, the development team hopes that players will get the feel for PvP without the hassles. Coruscant. While the films provide only tiny glimpses of it, Star Wars fans and gamers are familiar with Coruscant, capital planet of the Empire. And it was with Darth Maulian swiftness that the producer, Hayden Blackman, answered my question, will Coruscant be a planet at launch? With no. For now, Coruscant is infeasible on both the design and technology levels. Tech-wise, it takes an insane amount of computer horsepower to generate all of the buildings and vehicles required to render it accurately. Design-wise, each planet needs a compelling reason for players to want to run around it, and having the capital of the Empire in the game effectively shuts out anyone who isn't aligned with them. It wouldn't be fun to have a whole planet that will shoot any non-Imperial on sight. Finally, most people really just want to fly around and gawk at scenery. It's too much work for too little gain, so the team decided not to include Coruscant in the game. All this amounts only to a fraction of what I saw. Listening to Coaster and his team talk is listening to guys who know MMO design strutting their stuff. To let slip a bit of a hyperbole, This is one of the most epic games I've seen in development, and we'll see if the Force was with the team when the game finally gets released. This is so interesting. This is making me very, very curious to actually find some sort of like YouTube post-mortem of the game and see what actually happened. Because of course the game failed. And I think, as we'll see in a second, part of the reason the game failed is that if you play Star Wars, you want to be able to be a Jedi. Maybe not everybody, but like a good 90% of people, they just want the Jedi fantasy. And being a Jedi is something that your character either could or could not be, and you only discovered it after like 50 hours investing in the character. And I think there was like a micro revolt about that. I know the game folded eventually. I think there might be private servers on it, or there's maybe a version of it working. I would be very curious to check this out at some point. We might do like, I feel like for MMOs, I might do like special 60 Minutes to Sway episodes that are just like one episode of 4 hours is just like 4 hours of one of these MMOs. I would only do it for like the big releases, like just an expansion pack for an MMO. It's not something we could check out, right? Because unless it's the very last expansion that the MMO gets, there will be a bunch more expansion afterwards, and it's impossible to find a private server or a version of the game that is frozen in time at that level of the game. But I think it would be really fascinating. Let's read all of these side blurbs. Becoming a Jedi is the ultimate goal and consequently will be the hardest role in the game to achieve. In the movies, there are at most 4 Jedi running around: Luke, Vader, Yoda, and the Emperor, so the process of becoming a Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies is a guarded secret. The only hints I'll give are that everyone has the chance to be a Jedi, and everyone's chances are equal. A novice player who's a cook has the same chance at Jedihood as a veteran player who's become a badass bounty hunter. The process is individualized for each player, so you can become a Jedi and post a solution online. Apprenticeship is important. Don't think life is easy though. As one of the few Jedi in the game, you'll be hunted for the rest of your life by the likes of Vader, as shown here. Scorch Earth, a change of scenery. The fractal-based terrain engine is what drives the planets, allowing them to have massive mountains, lush trees, and weird crystal things all over the place. Additionally, points of interest pop on occasion. They range from hard-coded locations, such as the Scorch area of Yavin 4 shown here, to dynamically generated spawn points. Outside of the newbie areas and important locations, Fort Tusken or Scorch Yavin, monsters spawn based on where you are, not where world designer says they will be. This should eliminate camping, since there is no longer a hotspot to sit for critters, which will hopefully translate into a varied and interesting game worlds. Master Blaster Gun Mods. Weapon modifications basically boil down to improvements in range, accuracy, rate of fire, and damage. Here are some examples. The DL-44 blaster at Hensel's famous Tricked Out version, which is a larger barrel and a scope, making for accuracy and range bonus. Wild Wall Rancor World, Dathomir. Not only do we get all this info on the game, but the development team decided to let us announce a whole new planet, Dathomir. Hardcore fans might know about this witch-filled planet, but for the rest of us, here is the lowdown straight from a hidden black man. It's a low-gravity world inhabited by the Witches of Dathomir, a group of Force-sensitive women who ride fearsome rancors. The planet is covered with many kinds of terrain, including mountains, deserts, purple savannas, and forests of 80 meters trees. Humans come to Dathomir when a group of illegal arms manufacturers were exiled to the planet by the Jedi Knights. Several generations later, a rogue Jedi named Alia was also exiled to Dathomir. She began to teach the Force to the planet's inhabitants and her descendants, who also learned to tame the wild rancors. Near 400 years before the Battle of Yavin, the 2-kilometer Jedi Academy ship Chu Unthor crashed into a Dathomir tar pit. Jedi sent to recover the crashed ship were repelled by the witches. Different clans of these witches, Singing Mountain, Frenzied River, Misty Falls, were formed, including a group of Darksiders itself, calling itself the Night Sisters. Life among the clans follows a pattern of female dominance, and males are largely used as slaves for work or breeding. The planet also has an imperial penal colony. Theed, the city of cities. Theed is a great example of the absolutely mad ideas and level of details that the designers are putting into Star Wars Galaxies. For example, Cities archways, they're something on the level of 250 feet high. On top rests intricately detailed statues with reflective spheres, and everything else is glittery and showy. But there are no jetpacks in Star Wars Galaxies, so you can't actually go up there and admire the scenery. Theed itself is huge. We only saw a fraction of it in the Phantom Menace, and just the walk from the first archway to the palace is a bit of a hike. You can even walk to the small waterfall that Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Jar Jar surfaced at, and if you're feeling suicidal, take the plunge. Fort Tusken, origin of a name. Yes, the masked dorks that attacked Luke in A New Hope, only to be beaten back by crafty old Kenobi, were called Sand People. But that's the slang term. Their official designation is Tusken Raiders. If you've been wondering about the discrepancy, know that Tusken refers to a mining colony that these guys raided over and overcame. I had no idea that's where the Tusken Raiders took their name from. Fascinating. The fort remains a static point of interest and isn't much more than a ghost town. If you're creeped out by the idea of roaming around an abandoned ransacked base alone, be consoled by the thought that you can still probably find a few stand orcs to kill there. So wait. Calling them the Tusken Raiders is like calling Attila the Rome Destroyer? That's wild. That's wild. Races and faces, anti-Clone Wars. The multi-layered clothing can be modified by fashion designer players, and the facial and body customization features outperform those in any other game seen to date. For example, this is perhaps the first game to include the option of making fat characters so you're not locked to the stereotypical svelte or buff superhero physique. Interestingly, the Bothans, pictured above right, were the hardest to create a facial template for, mostly due to the fact that they've had no movie appearances. They got a throwaway line in Return of the Jedi, and there were no official visual references, inconsistent comic artists. The art team went back and forth with Lucas licensing before finally getting these faces approved. Star Wars Galaxies now has the official Bothun face. Bone armor. Bone armor does indeed come from the bones of slain creatures. Certain species created armor from bones and leather. When the Empire built an installation on this planet, this species incorporated metal into their armor. Bone armor is light and good for physical attacks, but not so effective against energy attacks like blaster fire. Mappings, designs for city living. Not only does the engine render alien landscapes, it also does a fair job of creating believable cities. Most of the original trilogy features small towns and installations, so lead world designer Cinco Barnes and his team had a clean slate when it came to designing cities. They were given descriptions from official continuity sources, RPG sourcebooks or novels, but not much else. All new layouts that Barnes and his team create, for example cities on Corellia, will be considered official in the eyes of Lucas licensing. In short, they are the official map makers for several of these planets and cities. Executive producer Rich Vogel and Barnes cited theme parks as a major influence in designing the various cities in the game. When it came to urban planning, they followed the Disney model of scattering landmarks all over the place, making the city easy to navigate. So you can go to any planet, and even if you've never been there before, you'll easily find the hotel, the shops, the bars, all of the standard locations. This time you're walking around the Magic Kingdom, think about its influence on the design of Theed on Naboo. Yeah, this is... I'm reading this, and it would be absolutely wonderful if they had actually managed to deliver on what they were talking about. But knowing that Star Wars Galaxies eventually failed, I can see a major point of contention being that what content are they designing for this? Right? They're creating the locations, they're creating the systems, but there's no mention of content. there's much enough story being created for it. And I guess MMOs were probably different back then, right? World of Warcraft came in and really had to focus on telling a story, and then Final Fantasy XIV came, and Final Fantasy XI also came and kind of did the same. But it's just fascinating to me that they're just like, yeah, and we're gonna basically build a real society where there's somebody that's transporting goods, it's somebody that's designing rifles, and somebody that's making them, somebody that's selling them. And I'm like, that sounds boring as fuck. Like, that sounds like a second job. That's not what I come to games for. I come to games to be like a space monk wizard, right? So definitely made me want to both check it out at some point, and also just find a YouTube post-mortem on it. Because, wow. The shit they're saying is in this interview, I will say that listening to guys who know MMO design strutting their stuff, I'm not sure they know. I think they're thinking of what I think they're building something that does not reflect how people actually play and engage with these things. And maybe it's because this was a brand new space at the time and they didn't know better. But the things that they're saying sound straight up loony at the times. Alright, we've reached the reviews. I think we're just gonna. I originally wanted to split this required reading up into two parts, but I think we might just burn through and sort of see what there is to check out. Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Oh, baby. How do you follow a classic Star Wars game? Make a better one. By Jeff Green. 25 years after the first movie turned ordinary kids into dorks for life, LucasArts' Star Wars empire continues to rule the pop culture galaxy. It hasn't always been great, or at times even tolerable. Hi, Jar Jar. But when LucasArts nails the magic combination of mythology, space opera, and pulp adventure, Star Wars is as great as popular entertainment gets. In Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, the highly anticipated sequel to the 1997 action game, is a Star Wars game that works. It works beautifully. Set 9 years after Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast again puts you in the role of Kyle Katarn, a Han Solo-ish guy who, as a Jedi in the previous game, nearly succumbed to the dark side of the Force. Kyle has since forsaken his role as a Jedi Knight, giving up his Force powers, and handing over his lightsaber to some guy named Luke Skywalker. As the game opens, Kyle and his partner, the fetching Jan Ors, are sent on a supposedly routine mission for the New Republic to check out a remote planet where Imperial transmissions have been intercepted. Of course, things get very complicated very fast, and Kyle must once again take the Empire and confront his powers as a Jedi Knight. It's a compelling story, well told. The game's developers, Raven Software, also made Star Trek Elite Force, and as they showed in that title, they have an innate gift for combining the right elements of a popular franchise with solid, entertaining gameplay and level design. The result is the best PC Star Wars game in years. Built on the Quake 3 Team Arena engine, Jedi Outcast takes place in a series of huge, engaging levels, many of them outdoors, that combine run-and-gun action with simple puzzle solving. Most of the puzzles are the standard, and at times annoying, jumping and reflex puzzles, but there are a few logic and mind puzzles along the way to mix things up, though nothing too tough for anyone who can read these words. I got seriously held up only twice, both times from being unable to find unforgivably hard-to-locate holes that I was supposed to crawl through. If you find the one on Yavin 4 right away, you're smarter than me. Pay careful attention to your surroundings and inspect everything, especially if you want to find the game's numerous secret areas. Like all post-Half-Life shooters, Jedi Outcast is full of scripted events and dialogue, which are used to great effect here. Not overdone, silly, or distracting, they're just enough to make the world feel alive. Making it even more so are the enemy movement and AI, which constantly keeps you on your toes. Stormtroopers and other foes will duck, evade, and attempt to flank you, and although they won't open closed doors if you leave a room, they'll be waiting for you, guns poised, when you go back in. Enemy death and injury animations are a joy. Bad guys clutch their neck, gut, or other body parts. They twist and spin in the air, and if you're unlucky enough to meet your lightsaber, they can get their limbs sliced straight off. That's what they get for joining the stupid Empire. Much more than the previous two games, Jedi Outcast focuses on the Jedi powers instead of on gunplay. It's not just Quake in space. As you progress through the levels, you get a series of exceedingly effective force powers, sound point allocation, beautifully rendered, but a bit more important, incredibly powerful and useful in gameplay. Running a gauntlet through a canyon on Yavin 4, I was able to force pull stormtroopers off of high cliffs to crash to their deaths without ever lifting a weapon. Many of the puzzles require the use of force powers, including the Jedi Mind Trick and Force Speed, which does the Max Payne bullet time effect one better. As in Jedi Knight, the lightsaber is easily the best weapon, as it should be, and it's the only way to defeat other lightsaber-wielding foes. I love Jedi Outcast because it works as both a great game and a great story, something that rarely happens in gaming. Even the title is clever, referring to both the story's hero and villain. And Kal Katarn is more than your standard wisecracking, muscle-bound hero. He's a flawed character with history. A shocking plot twist about a quarter of the way in gives Kal the motivation to seek out his force powers again, and the sequence, complete with John Williams' classic music, has real emotional resonance. But besides that, it's just beautifully designed. Fast-paced, challenging, and awesome to look at. It's an early competitor for Action Game of the Year. We can only hope that Attack of the Clones is half as good. I think Attack of the Clones was probably about exactly half as good. Multiplayer Jedi. Jedi Outcast's multiplayer is the equal of the single-player game with multiple modes and rules and stunning bot AI to round out your matches. As in single-player game, the lightsaber is the best weapon, though you sissies out there may favor the Disruptor Rifle's sniper scope. So no need to call people names. They have Lando with Billy D. Williams' voice. Verdict, 5 stars. An engaging storyline, great level design, and awesome lightsaber battles and force powers make Jedi Outcast the equal, if not the better, of the previous Jedi Knight games. This game is great. We will do a full playthrough of it eventually, right? We're making our way, I believe... Quickly checking my content calendar, because I record these out of order, and so sometimes I don't know, but... yeah, we already started our Star Wars Dark Forces playthrough, right? So after that, there's Jedi Knight, and after that game, there's this one, and then there's one more, which is called Jedi Academy. I think the problem that they ran into, and that's the reason why the series stopped with Jedi Academy, despite it being actually pretty good, is that it stops being a first-person shooter. Dark Forces is a first-person shooter through and through. We've played through the whole thing. You will see the finale coming soon. You just shoot your way through things. I've not played Jedi Knight yet, but from what they describe, the force powers start to play a role in it. And so I don't even know what it looks like. I assume it's probably then going to be full 3D, though probably early 3D. And there's going to be some lightsaber combat, but I think it's still mostly a first-person shooter. Here, this is a first-person shooter until the quarter mark, where the sort of plot twist comes. And then it becomes an action game where you just... why would you flip to your blaster if you have a lightsaber that you can throw at things, And that's kind of what ultimately killed the series, I think, is that they couldn't get back to the shooter roots once they had unleashed all of these very fun to play and very awesome Jedi powers, but they just couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. But very excited to play through an hour of this game for 60 Minutes This Way feature. Freedom Force. Finally, the comic book, the game we've been dying for. This is a game that... Yes, we already started playing on the channel too. Again, checking the content calendar, just to make sure. But we will not be checking this out for 60 Minutes This Way that we will include in our ranking, because at the time I'm recording this, I've actually already played through the whole game. I've recorded, it's going to be 4 episodes total to get to the ending. So I'm interested to see how my feelings on the game will match or not match the ones in this review. I have one huge problem with Freedom Force. I don't have any notes. Every time I sat down to play it for this review, I got completely lost in the game, totally involved in the deceptively deep tactical combat, engrossed in the delicate juggling of RPG character development, and utterly swept up in the giddy, overwhelming sense that permeates every 1 and 0 burn onto the game CD. So here I am, 1 week later, with a scrap of notepaper reading, "This is so much fun," and a reminder to myself to save up for a hellfire. This is some kind of incredible professional game assessment. No wonder I'm paid in single-serving boxes of Cocoa Puffs. On the surface, Freedom Force is a tactical strategy game in the XCOM mold, with gamers commanding a team of up to 4 comic book-style superheroes. Prestige point earned by protecting Freedom Force's hometown Patriot City from aliens, dinosaurs, giant robots, and the seemingly endless army of twisted supervillains are used to recruit new team members, including those you create yourself. Likewise, every character on your team gains experience after each mission, with team members who actually perform the missions getting the lion's share. Characters that level up get character points for purchasing new general abilities, or for buying and upgrading their specific powers. 1 or 2 of your characters will level up after almost every mission, so you'll constantly be asking yourself questions like, do I save my points to get flying for Manbot next time he levels up, or should I upgrade his wallop and get double uppercut while I'm at it? Teamplay. The RPG elements offer a deeper, more personal level of strategy in a game that at first glance might seem a bit short on the tactical strategy it promises. After all, superpowered do-gooders should be able to handle almost anything, right? But Freedom Force understands that the appeal of any great superhero team and the appeal of any great strategy game are the same. A clever balance of individual strengths and weaknesses. While you might succeed at first by leaning on the super strength of team leader Minuteman, you'll need the incredible speed of Bullet when you infiltrate Mr. Mechanical's secret lab. You'll need the ranged attacks of the fiery El Diablo and stalwart Manbot to defeat the evil sylphs of Pan, and you'll even need the scollier taunts of Minuteman's teen sidekick Liberty Lad to make it through the rough-and-tumble street brawls versus Deja Vu's nasty clones. Mission design is open enough that you'll want to replay with different characters just to see what happens. You can create teams to battle other gamers in multiplayer, but this is primarily a single-player game. As much as it succeeds as a game, Freedom Force is also a loving tribute to Silver Age comics. Every team member has a wry animated secret origin sequence explaining how a chance encounter with Energy X turned him or her into a super being. Buildings tumble during battles, so you can club enemies with street lights or throw cars at them. Cutscenes recreate the classic infighting, flirting, and internal struggles depicted in Justice League of America. You've got sound effects balloons, ridiculously garish but perfect costumes, time travel, cosmic battles for the fate of mankind, overly dramatic descriptions of every person and object in the game. The building is a proud participant in the Patriot City skyline. A T-Rex is the regal king of the tyrant lizards, and much, much more. If you've seen it in a comic, you'll see it in Freedom Force. What about the bad guys? Well, almost everything. If there's one big oversight in the game, it's the lack of any background info on the supervillains. As well as the developers understand comics, they seem to have forgotten that the Joker's origin is just as crucial as Batman's. So although you have the requisite tragic villainess, the superpower gangster, the insane rhyming trickster, and more, you never know how they got that way. That's about the only shortcoming in the game. I did run into one bug that caused a team member not to respond to my commands, and I had to restart a mission when enemies could be interrogated only by the non-flying Eve wound up on unreachable rooftops. That didn't come close to impinging on my enjoyment. Just like a great comic, Freedom Force left me thirsting for more. With luck, we'll see an expansion pack later this year and the next installment of the planned trilogy in 2003. Until then, I'll be playing through the game once more before slipping the CD and manual into a protective Mylar bag complete with acid-free backing board. Verdict 5 stars out of 5. This is the most pure fun you'll have with a strategy or RPG game this year. Enough said. I agree with most of what they say. I think ultimately, as you will see in my playthrough, My two main issues with the game is that one, it is not generous enough with experience points for characters. Like, just let me fucking upgrade my heroes to max level. We don't need to make it so that I have to choose one of the two superhero tracks for each of my characters to max out, or are forced to only like go halfway up each of them. Um, the story doesn't fully coalesce by the end for me. There's just the missions are fun and the references are very tongue in cheek, but it's just not quite there. Um, and the other thing that really pisses me off is that they should tell you what elements the enemies that you face in a mission are weak or resistant to before you pick your characters. And if they tell you it's something that I completely missed, I would just pick a team, get into the mission, and be like, well, shit, here's an enemy that is resistant to literally every single element that my characters have. And maybe that just means that I should have just backed out, restarted the mission, picked a different team, and gone from there. But that felt cheap. So I think it was a very, very good game. It definitely gets a full 4-star. I don't know if because of its length and also lack of replayability, if it deserves that fifth or even that half extra star that they're giving it. So, again, this one will not be checking out for 60 minutes this way because, hey, go check out the full playthrough as part of our Hidden Gems series. NASCAR Racing 2002 season. The NASCAR School of Driving is now in session. The NASCAR Racing series has always been the choice for gamers who want the most realistic, hardcore simulation of rough and tumble stock car racing. But for those less dedicated, these titles have been too difficult to drive, and the time it took to learn how to finish a race, let alone win one, was just too daunting. NASCAR 2002 provides new and unique features that bridge the gap between the fanatical, hardcore sim racer and the casual gamers. Still included are the familiar test sessions, single race championship, and multiplayer modes from the previous titles. It's the addition of new driving lessons that separates this release from its predecessors. These lessons consist of replays of actual in-game races to demonstrate the subjects being taught. You get detailed visual instructions covering everything from drafting to performing a perfect pit stop. There are tips on making adjustments in the garage as well, so if you're not a wrench head, you'll need not worry. After you've finished all of the lessons, it's time to try the track tours. Your 3-time Winston Cup champion Daryl Waltrip explains the preferred line around each and every track. His explanation is accompanied by green arrows that actually show you the best way around. Papyrus has tweaked some of the features to maintain realism while making the cars easier to drive. The damage model and tire traction have been redone to reflect more realistically the way cars handle when damaged, as well as to allow for better side-by-side two-wide racing. The sounds have been vastly improved and are reminiscent of what it sounds like at a race event. The only real problems with the game involve the improvements to the graphics. They don't look much better, and the frame rate are significantly lower than those of the predecessor, NASCAR 4. The Pentium 3 933 with a GeForce 2 GTS can provide the horsepower to play this game with all the graphics options turned on. This was a big disappointment since playing at a lower resolution makes it look like NASCAR 3. Still, NASCAR Racing 2002 is a good buy for rookies as well as seasoned veterans of the series. The new driving lessons and track tours hand you the keys to a stock car that will have you winning races before you finish your first rookie season. Verdict 4 out of 5. With improvements and features galore, it's the best NASCAR simulation yet, regardless of the musts required to run it. I think it's interesting that there were at the time, it's like, I can run it at max settings on my video card, and then by the time Far Cry comes around, that stops being an expectation, right? If a brand new game comes out and I don't have the newest PC, which at this time would probably have included a GeForce 4, and probably a Pentium 4, right? 2002, that's the time when Pentium 4s were already starting to be around. You would probably be like, yeah, okay, it's medium settings, that's fine, that's what my rank can handle. But at the time, it was just like, That's disgusting. Ghost Recon Desert Siege. Where the hell is Eritrea? It's on the little Horn of Africa, northeast side of it. Ghost Recon Desert Siege rides on the successful coattails of its Rainbow Six sibling, with missions packed full of enhancements, goodies, and perks, most notably the long-awaited mission editor. Desert Siege takes place in the East African country of Eritrea, where lawless thugs rule barren wastelands and make war with neighboring Ethiopia. Red Storm ups the mission pack ante by offering 8, versus the Rainbow Six Expansion's 5, action pack missions, ranging from direct action raids and hostage rescue to capturing bad guys and taking out tank columns. Some missions are downright onerous. Enemy jeeps and pickups race across the open desert, returning deadly accurate fire, making it infinitely more difficult to nail your enemy from afar. Desert Siege also adds more specialists, including an Eritrean partisan sniper, new single-player weapons like the PKM and desert uniforms. All this proves that Red Storm still knows how to put together a mission pack. Note to the industry, follow their lead. Ghost Recon is patched to 1.2, which vastly improves both enemy and team AI behavior, and offers a number of other interface, gameplay, and stability tweaks, like auto-run and quick load. Binoculars work as binoculars should, and your soldiers return fire when ordered. Graphically, Desert Siege looks better than the original, with improved Voodoo card support. Red Storm gives the active multiplayer community even more to chew on. 9 new weapons take center stage on an arsenal that includes the workhorse M60, Russian Groza build-up rifle, and the extremely accurate HNK PSG-1 sniper rifle. Red Storm also adds better mod support, interface tweaks, wrapped with US locales in Colorado, Washington, and North Carolina, in 2 game types, Domination and Siege. Most important, Red Storm finally has provided the mission editing tools and support documentation that aspiring map makers create and modify scenarios for the dedicated Ghost Recon community. The cynic might label Desert Siege a glorified patch, but 8 new missions, enhancements, and a heck of a mission editor make Desert Siege a winner. Verdict 4.5 stars out of 5. Even without the numerous enhancements, tweaks, and goodies, Desert Siege is worth the price for its mission editor alone. Revisionist History, Disciples to Dark Prophecy, by Thomas L. McDonald. Strategy First gets an A for their effort to not only fix but improve upon Disciples to Dark Prophecy with their 1.1 patch. It doesn't always work, but their hearts were in the right place, so let's give them a big sloppy hug. Disciples 2 fared pretty well in reviews, and few people singled out bugs as major problem. But of course, everything, even your breakfast burrito, has bugs. What? This must have been a news story or something. But Strategy First has sought these bugs out, killed them, and diligently introduced new ones free of charge. Generally, 1.1 provides excellent service for its 16 megabyte download. Multiplayer is better thanks to a few tweaks, such as allowing chat on any screen and preventing you from connecting to the slots, still using version 1.0. Some of the cleanup focused on the myriad situations that could trigger crashes. Starting a multiplayer game without sound, attacking under certain circumstances, mixing Paisley and Plaid, and so forth. I think this is probably a joke that I don't quite get. Sound glitches were supposedly fixed by an update, version 1.2J, to Rat Game Tools' Big Library, but the update didn't take for everyone, and some users are still reporting sound dropouts and cutscenes. Other features added in 1.1 may have triggered a bigger bug. A prompt message for exporting leaders at the end of a saga or quest is nice, but leaders are being exported without any of their objects or not at all. The team is aware of the problem and is working to fix it now. We'll let the leader thing slide since the developers went and improved the graphics for a game that everyone agreed looked pretty amazing to begin with. I am confused. This is a good idea, per se. I am just confused because this patch looks very minor. It's like bug fixes. Why are we talking about it? Maybe the Disciples 2 publisher paid to have the featurette up or something. And I don't think we're gonna play through Ghost Recon Desert Siege. I might try, but this is an expansion of a game that we haven't checked out. And also, it's not really one that particularly resonates with me. I'm not a big fan of like tactical FPS, so I don't know. We'll see. But so far, the only guarantee one is Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. So this one seems like it could be on the list too. Warlords Battle Cry 2. Now that the demons and Fae are here, we can get this party started by Tom Price. Let me be clear. I'm really not one for dragons and fairies and imps and such. For me, the word fantasy conjures up more images of Barry Bond's on-base percentage than of brave knights rescuing fair maidens in an enchanted forest. But I am one for good real-time strategy games, especially those that shuck boring conversations out of the genre and are packed with good, fast-paced gameplay, deep tech trees, and a healthy sprinkling of RPG lovin'. And at its core, that is exactly what Warlords Battle Cry 2 is. A superbly excellent RTS that continues the innovation of its predecessor. If you didn't play the original Warlords Battle Cry when it was released in 2000, you missed out a truly fresh and fun game. But you haven't completely lost out because Battle Cry 2 is quite similar, but this new iteration throws in a lot more content to add to the experience and to make for an even more interesting strategic combinations. I want to be a hero. The game is centered on your hero unit, which you can choose from among 12 races. Humans, undead, dwarves, barbarians, minotaurs, orcs, high elves, wood elves, dark elves, fae, demons, or dark dwarves. Your hero also chooses a profession: warrior, wizard, rogue, or priest, and a specialty. Specialties vary among the professions. There are at least 4 to choose from in each category, and as many as 7 if you decide to be a wizard. Heroes accrue experience points and can level up in force statistics and numerous other skills and casting powers. The RPG elements of the game are deep and should satisfy gamers looking for that kind of experience, but surprisingly they don't overwhelm the player. I do wish heroes had a larger inventory, but that's a minor concern. The extensive spellbook you can put together outweighs the effectiveness of items anyway. In the field, your hero is not only your most powerful unit, with the most hit points and the ability to cast spells, it is also able to do just about any job necessary. If you don't have any worker units, your hero can build buildings, your hero can also convert enemy buildings, and most importantly, your resources. The resource management system is one of the most seamless and low-maintenance schemes I've ever seen in an RTS. There are 4 resources in-game: gold, metal, stone, and crystal, and once you convert one of the corresponding mines, the resource is automatically harvested starting at a fixed rate from anywhere on the map. You can increase that rate in a number of ways, either by assigning a worker to the mine, there's no running back and forth to just stay in there, or by casting a spell or building a certain kind of building, depending on which race you're playing. For instance, the demons can build a gallows and then research forced labor, which upgrades the resource rate. Battlescry resource collection process is amazingly pain-free and should be blatantly ripped off by every other RTS. Endless possibilities. Playing through the campaign in Warlords Battle Cry 2 involves taking over large parts of a world map, with each of the territories representing a single skirmish. I say skirmish because each battle is set up as that: a random map, based on certain parameters, occupied by a certain AI enemy hero and his troops. The enemy begins the level at the same time as you do, surrounded by resources and whatever units were bought at the beginning of the level. After that, it's pretty much straight RTS action. You build your base using worker units or your hero and then start capturing resources. Units are spawned out of buildings, but the types of buildings and the units they produce vary from race to race. There are some building types common to all races: town squares, defense towers, nests for flying units. But the multitude of different units among the races and variation on which buildings and skills it takes to produce them makes for a lot of different types of gameplay, depending on which side you're playing. Imagine the differences among the 3 races in StarCraft and consider that here you're playing with 12 races. Sounds very difficult to balance, if you ask me, but within the missions, the RPG elements don't hand with your hero's experience points and spellcasting abilities. Short quests are periodically given that reward you with a special item, some unique units, or extra resources. Unfortunately, there aren't enough of these quests for my tastes, but I suppose it's a balancing issue, and Battle Cry 2 is surprisingly well balanced for offering so many divergent sides to play. Battle Cry 2 is elegantly designed and is readily accessible, but this game is also deeper than the Marianas Trench. It'll take you weeks, even months, to discover all that the game has to offer. It's a great thing to find in this age of games that can be played to their finish in a week, and they are never touched again. Whether you're an RPG fan or just love a good original RTS design, Warlords Battlecry 2 will keep you coming back again and again. Verdict 4.5 stars out of 5. An innovative yet solid approach to two different genres results in one of the finest strategy games around right now. Definitely gonna go check this one out in our 60 minutes this way. Darkened Sky. It's like Tomb Raider, but with Skittles by Eric Wolpaw. If you don't know of this game, it's a shame that they kind of spoiled it for you, because I got to experience this firsthand by watching someone play it on a stream. It's like, this is sort of this dark fantasy kind of thing, and then you're sort of the first big cinematic, and they reveal that Skittles are really what powers the whole world. Like, the candy, Skittles. The following text is buried in the middle of a fine print at the bottom of the back of the Darkened Sky box. Skittles and Taste the Rainbow are a registered trademark of Mars Inc. and its affiliates. That's the only indication that the game inside is about Skittles, the candy, not the variant of bowling people play in England. The publisher should have pointed out the Skittles connection more prominently, because Darkened Sky actually benefits from the association. Even decent licenses, such as those from great action movies, are notorious for resulting in awful games. So Tello created as a marketing tool for food is going to come with some really low expectations. If the game turns out to not be terrible, it'll be a rousing success. And that's pretty much the case with Darkened Sky. It's great for a game about Skittles. Minus the Skittles part, it's average. Here's an encapsulation of the Darkened Sky experience. After you've exhausted every option for crossing an impassable watery gap, you eventually, and sort of counterintuitively, try jumping into the gaping maw of a big worm that periodically rises out of the water. This triggers a cutscene that shows your character, Sky, entering the worm's mouth and emerging from with a green Skittles. Eventually, the singular of Skittles is Skittles. Sky turns to the camera and says that the candy is in perfect condition because marketing didn't think it'd be a good idea to show a half-digested Skittles. The Skittles grant you a new spell, which you can use to shoot a switch that raises some rock in the water, that you must then jump across to reach the new area. The process is repeated with slight variations until you've united the 5 prisms that will return the rainbow to the land. Darkened Sky is a thoroughly traditional third-person action-adventure game with a decent sense of humor about itself. It is workmanlike but unsurprising. The candy references actually fit in pretty well. As long as you're running around the countryside collecting supernatural tchotchkes, they may as well be Skittles. The license also helps subvert some of the crustier expository voice acting, such as when a wise old crone intones, "People knew magic then. It was Skittles what fueled that magic." It's a reviewing tradition to think up some group of people to whom the game in question would appeal. So here we go. Fans of action-adventure games who love Skittles should check this one out. But if you just love eating Skittles, I'm not talking about you, because the game doesn't come packaged with any candy. I'm basically referring to people who read fanfiction about Skittles. For everyone else, Darkened Sky is a game that most likely excels at being better than you think it'll be. 2.5 stars out of 5, a middle-of-the-road third-person adventure with Skittles. I will try to see if I can get my hands on it, and we might play this one for a little bit just to see how silly it is. Ultima Online Lord Blackthorn's Revenge. If you haven't tried Ultima Online, it's still waiting, by Arcadian del Sol. For a time, each new online game in development was hailed as the game that would knock Ultima Online off the internet, and for a while, each new title would capture the attention of those who played Ultima Online. While they are a fickle community, easily mesmerized by the newest toys, these prodigal children of Caesarea always find their way back home when each new expansion is released. With Lord Blackthorn's Revenge, they're sure to come back once again. In addition to offering more than 30 new player-crafted items, Lord Blackthorn's Revenge opens a new region of Ilshinar, filled with frightening creatures conceived by Todd McFarlane, the creature behind the Spawn franchise. The AI of these creatures has been greatly improved, so the emphasis is on tactics and strategy when confronting them. More interesting is that these creatures and their appearance in the land of Caesarea are part of an unfolding saga that players can alter through their actions in the game. Even the character management system has been expanded. It's no longer limited to skill level and a primary statistic management. A new virtue system allows players to gain additional enhancements, including increasing the diversity of the player population. Lord Blackthorn's Revenge greatly expands the new player experience, allowing young characters to learn as they play with relative safety and increased protection from the perils of the Caesarian wilderness. Prior to this expansion, Ilshanar could be only accessed by the players using Third Dawn client. Lord Blackthorn's Revenge finally grants entry to those who prefer the original spread-based client. This also comes with its own very Todd McFarlane action figure. But if you're currently playing with a 3D client, or if you can find it on sale, you do not really need this expansion unless you really want the game music in MP3 format. The content for Lord Blackthorn's Revenge has already been introduced to those who use 3D, and for those players, this expansion is almost entirely redundant. If you plan to continue using the original client, this expansion is a must-have. And if you have yet to try any version of Ultima Online, Lord Blackthorn's Revenge is the best reason yet to finally do so. 3 out of 5. Lord Blackthorn's Revenge is a nice addition for anyone but UO Third Dawn players. And you get a doll. Ballistics. Dramamine not included, by Tom Price. So you went and blew this month's beer money, and probably next month's too, on a Gay Force 4, but you haven't found the right game to show off its impressive technology. Sure, the frame rates you're getting for Sin are hella high, but you want something that will really sparkle. If so, then give Ballistics a shot. This futuristic racer from Grin and Zycat is undoubtedly one of the most entertaining tech demos you'll ever shell out $30 for, but it has surprisingly decent game underneath. I won't trouble you with the tired techno-punk mythos that makes up the backstory. The game is this. You're racing on some kind of magnetic hoverbike through a tubes. The kick is, you're going really, really fast. Like Mach 1+. The smooth graphics and interesting art direction add to the exhilarating effect of all that speed, but watch out. I got dizzy and nauseated more than once playing this game. Though it could have been the 2-liter of Mountain Dew and Family Says Cheetos, I'm not sure. Ballistics isn't a great game, but it's a decent challenge. It gets really freaking hard the farther you get in, but the scenery gets cooler as well. Definitely worth a look if you need to justify the killer gaming rig. 3 stars out of 5. Ballistics' beauty is only skin deep, well, maybe a tiny bit more. Neither of those we will check out. For Ultima Online, it's an expansion to a game we haven't played before, and also with MMOs. It's tricky, right? So an MMO release, I would try to figure out a way to track down to play and experience, but a specific expansion in this day and age, I don't even think there's any way for me to play the Lord Blackthorn's Revenge version of Ultima Online. So we're just going to move on. Ballistics does not seem interesting. At least Darkened Sky is bad, you know? Like it's silly bad. Ballistics just seems boring. Star Trek Bridge Commander. Armchair Captains Rejoice, your game has arrived, by Denny Atkin. Growing up watching the original Star Trek, even the least geeky of us dreamed about sitting in the captain's chair. Star Trek Bridge Commander puts you there in suitably dramatic fashion. After watching your captain's shuttle get obliterated by an exploding sun, you're put in command of the USS Dauntless and must prove yourself to the crew. Along the way, you'll encounter all the fun Star Trek cliches. A mysterious unknown alien race, lying Ferengi, suspicious Romulans, and battle-crazed Klingons. In keeping with tradition, when you're given a new ship halfway through the game, its systems don't work as advertised. Leave the joystick unplugged and don't expect Klingon battlecruisers to move like Kilrathi fighters. This is authentic Star Trek combat. The 30-mission campaign is broken into 8 episodes, which are all part of the single overarching storyline, starting with the aforementioned explosion. The story is as scanned as Horrible Chili, though, so don't expect a living Star Trek universe that you can explore at whim. There are a few cases when your actions will make a difference down the line. For example, choose not to destroy a Cardassian fleet and you'll face a larger enemy force in the next mission. Overall, though, choices are few, and you're taken down a fairly linear path. There's at least a bit of freedom in how you complete individual missions. The puzzle-like sequences in Totally Games' previous X-Wing games are happily absent here. On the bright side, the story is engaging thanks to the advisor and classic Trek scriptwriter Dizzy Fontana. The exploding star mysteriously unfolds in a logical manner, and a few unexpected twists pop up later. Voice acting is well done, with guest appearances by Patrick Stewart, Picard, and Brent Spinner, Data. The only real annoyance is your first officer, whose attempts to do your job for you make you want to send her down to Deck 12 to clean space bathrooms. In addition to the campaign, there's a battle simulator that lets you ship versus ship skirmishes that lets you set up ship versus ship skirmishes against the AI. Multiplayer includes a variety of deathmatch and team deathmatch setups, as well as the Defend the Starbase mode. The saving grace is that when you're finished the campaign, multiplayer works very well, with smooth play and easy matchmaking via built-in GameSpy support. Battle stations. The six bridge stations, First Officer, Helm, Engineering, Tactical Science, and the special guest star seat, where Picard, Data, and other visitors sit, are the focus of the game. Communicating with the crew members at each station lets you get situational updates, give orders, and ask for suggestions. Commands and dialogue are handled through an on-screen menu based on the Library Computer Access and Retrieval System, or LCARS, interface seen in the Next Generation. Hotkeys are available, but they're unnecessary unless you decide to steer the ship manually. The interface is wonderfully straightforward, and only uber newbies to Trek are likely to need to crack open the manual. During the story, you hold conversations with crew members and fellowship captains, occasionally giving orders to scan ships, warp to new systems, or open hailing frequencies. During combat, you concentrate on the tactical station, choosing targets and attack maneuvers. Once your ship starts taking damage, you can order the science officers to adjust the repair and power priorities. When you shift to a different station, the previous crewman continues carrying out your last order, so scanning the enemy or adjusting shields won't halt your attacks. Your crew members are competent, but the game is balanced in such a way that they truly need your leadership. Tell your tactical officer to destroy your Romulan warbird and he might pull it off, but give him guidance in targeting specific systems and choosing maneuvers and he'll do a much more efficient job. For a more direct approach, tap the spacebar for the external tactical view where you can continue to give maneuver and targeting orders, or grab the mouse and keyboard to take control. There's no joystick support. You steer the ship with FPS-style WASD keys, firing weapons using the mouse. It takes getting used to, but the control scheme works well. At all but the highest of the 3 available skill levels, you can get by without using manual controls until the last couple of missions, in which taking out targets with maximum efficiency is crucial. Shades of Grey. Although the sound is excellent, graphics are a mixed bag. Ships are nicely detailed and phaser and torpedo effects are well done, yet damage yields flat textures and silly smoke trails. Your bridge crew members are polygonal enough to look like refugees from Bizarro World, and lip-sync effects will make you long for 60s Godzilla films. Still, Bridge Commander remains a very engaging game with an interesting story that keeps you playing and exciting battles that require real strategy to win. Its downside is the canned linear campaign that, although lengthy, will have you waiting in anticipation for the next episode when you finish. Expansion disc, anyone? Verdict 4 out of 5 stars. The Holy Grail of Star Trek simulations has arrived. Boy, they're giving the Holy Grail 4 out of 5 stars? That seems a little rush. And this looks interesting enough that we might end up checking it out. Dark Planet Battle for Naturalus. Like You Really Wanted Innovation by John Fletcher. A really good clone. That about sums up Dark Planet Battle for Naturalus. If you've played StarCraft, you've essentially played the Dark Planet, but that's not to say Dark Planet isn't worth your time. It is. First, let's get some things out of the way. This planet ain't big enough for all of us premise is one notch below stale. Many of the visual elements and gameplay routines are, how can I put this gently, tedious and instantly recognizable. And the perpetual dusk lighting combined with a pitch-black fog of war is a strain on the eyes. Mix in a tendency to lock up and a graphics engine that'll tax or overwhelm your average player's video card, and you've got enough knocks to end up costing the game a solid 4-star rating. That said, DP does a lot of things really well, starting with the races. You can play human colonists who lean on technology to develop things like killer droids and long-range missile silos, the insectoid Drill, who cocoon dead enemies to feed their tough warriors and spewing bugs factories, or the Soren, lizardman native to Naturalus, with a magic-generating religion and spell-slinging priests. All the units look great, especially the double machine gun-wielding colonist commanders and the Soren priests, who bear an uncanny resemblance to Thulsa Doom. You go through the standard RTS gather and build upgrade routine to get to the good stuff, meaning battles. This is where the Dark Planet's rather manly graphics engine really comes into its own. Multicolor blood splatters, laser and rocket trails, epic explosions, blast damage, and the wails and screams of the dying hordes not only give DP its well-deserved mature rating, but also provide a visceral charge that leaves you lusting for more. Excellent view shift and zoom routines, conveniently centered around the home and end key clusters, only enhance things. The detail is so good and the image is so complex that I had to set my 16 megabyte card to 800 by 600 for smooth play. If, however, you have a 32 megabyte card, you'll really be able to appreciate the bloody glory that is Netrolis. In addition to 3 satisfying solo campaigns, DP includes a variety of multiplayer modes, including skirmish and capture the flag games, as well as team play. If Edges could have mixed the bloodletting with a less derivative concept and a slightly more stable platform, DP might have been a crossover hit. As is, it's a solid buy for any RTS aficionado. 3 out of 5. Call it a StarCraft homage, call it a StarCraft clone, Dark Planet is still a good, entertaining RTS. And we're going to skip this one. I'm also going to skip the baseball stat game review. It's fine. Or the PGA Tour, or the Destroyer Commando. When something is far enough from our interest or does look pretty terrible, there's no reason to read through the descriptions. We can just move on. Oh man, this is SSI still? Wow. Alright, and that brings us to the end of the review area. So I think for 60 minutes this way, which again, I thought it was going to be 2 episodes. Am I only going to be 1 episode? Star Trek Bridge Commander, Darkened Sky, Warlords Battlecry 2, and Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Looks like our 4 games. What's up with tech? Gayforce kick in the pants. Toshiba takes their vaunted satellite and gives it a makeover. This is just a laptop with a Gayforce chipset. $2,000. I love that they're doing all the benchmark values everywhere, huh? Creative Sound Blaster X2G. This is an external sound blaster over USB. Oh, and this is basically the same thing from someone else. Yeah, the hardware bits are not as interesting at this time, because it's not like we could test any of these or even emulate most of these at this level, right? It's interesting that this laptop had sort of like commands on this area of the body. How to throw a LAN party. Ready to have some friends over for a frag fest by Joel Durham. So you're tired of internet lag, but you still have a deep-seated urge to humiliate other people. There is only one answer. Throw a LAN party. Hosting a successful frag fest is easier than you think. Just follow these steps and you'll be on your way towards lagless multiplayer mayhem. Step 1. Plan ahead. Whether you're having a few folks over for a casual evening of popcorn and fragging or organizing a massive gathering of gibbers, take a few minutes to hash out the details. What games will you be playing? Does someone's house have enough room for everybody, or do you need to rent a banquet room? We'll be playing games that require special controllers like flight sims, racing sims, or mecha titles. Make sure you inform your guests of the itinerary so they come prepared with the necessary controllers, games, and other equipment. Step 2. Lay out the location. This shouldn't be much of a chore for small gatherings. You can probably set it up on the fly. For large parties, though, it's best to lay the infrastructure before the guests arrive. First, decide how you're going to lay out the network. Will you use hubs and switches, or will you go wireless? For small groups, base the arrangement on the equipment the participants already have. For instance, as most of the gang has 10100 NICs for a broadband internet connection, a 10100 auto-sensing hub, or several stackable hubs, with enough ports for everyone will be sufficient. For large parties, use 10100 switches to cut down the network traffic, or go in an 802.11x wireless access point. Provide enough space at desks and tables for each PC, and if you're not wireless, be sure to have network cables for everybody. Step 3. Prep the PCs. Each participant's computer should be fitted with an appropriate network adapter. To minimize technical concerns, you should also have everyone install the latest drivers for their equipment and the most recent DirectX version. Besides their PC and peripherals, you should instruct guests to bring their own power strips, game software, and whatever else they desire. Everyone should bring a set of headphones too. With speakers, the noise level can get out of control, plus it's possible for the opponents to pick up telltale tactics tidbits from a live computer. As guests arrive, have them set up and power on their PCs, plugging in necessary network cables. Step 4. Dedicate a server. Make every effort to have a high-end PC available that can act as a dedicated server. This is mandatory if more than 6 or 7 people participate in your LAN party. This isn't as costly as an endeavor as it sounds. A server needs a stable motherboard, a fast processor, plenty of RAM, and a speedy network interface, but you can cut costs on every other device. It doesn't need a high-end video card, for instance, and it doesn't need a sound card or speakers at all. A generic mouse and keyboard will do for input, and a small cheap monitor is sufficient display. Step 5. Configure the network. Whether the group is running Windows 98, XP, or anything in between, getting Microsoft PCs to talk to each other over a network is fairly simple. Have each participant invoke the Network Properties interface by firing up the control panel and choosing Networks. Alternatively, XP users can run the network setup wizard. The interface varies from one version of Windows to the next, but each has common attributes. In the list of network components, make sure the following are present: client for Microsoft Networks and the protocols TCP/IP and IPX/SPX, which a few games still need. Also pick a work group name like LANFest, and have the players configure their network settings for it. Be sure each participant's PC has a unique name to avoid conflicts. Do the same for the server. You can test connectivity by adding the file and printer sharing services on the server and then sharing a directory without using password protection. Have everyone invoke the network neighborhood of My Network Places applets and look for the server, or navigate directly to it by entering its network path. If some PCs can see it and some others can't, then chances are the ones that can't are misconfigured or improperly connected. If nobody can see it, make sure the server is properly configured and connected. Step 6. Frag away. Yeah, this is one of my regrets as somebody who got into PC gaming. Honestly, still at a young age, but I just did not have a very social life growing up. Just, taking your shit, going to a LAN party, just bringing your own PC, and just playing games with other people. I guess they fucking still do it at PAX, right? It's just that... I'm curious now, actually. What games do they play at PAX? Yeah, these are all, recent games. Like, Deep Rock Galactic, Dota 2... Neon White, Overcooked. I wish you could simulate a mid-aughts LAN party kind of thing, but it is what it is. Tech Medics. You've got questions, we've got answers by William O'Neill. First you get the money, then the power, then the respect. Hey Will, I'm building my dream machine and it's going to have an AMD XP 2000 plus CPU, DVD-ROM drive, CD-RW drive, and at least 2 system fans. Will a 330 watt power supply provide enough juice to support all of these? From Scott Lewis. I just got a machine from Falcon Northwest. Athlon XP 2100 plus, yada yada yada. It came with a 430 watt power supply. While your machine should be just fine with a 330 watt power supply that you mentioned, my 2.4 GHz Pentium 4 power rig is a 350 watt supply and it's plenty quick. The fact that cooling nuts like Falcon and Voodoo PC go with bigger power supplies means something. In other words, get a bigger power supply if you can swing the extra money. Thus speaketh the master, Dave. I'm looking for a sound card with some nice sounding MIDI effects. I have a Sound Blaster X Skimmer right now and it has the best MIDI sound realism and quality that I've run across, but I still want better, and I know that MIDI isn't a big deal to most gamers, but those of us who attempt to compose music or compute on our computers tend to use it a good deal. Brian Steeman. Dave Salvador likes to think of himself as a musician, so I sent your query his way. Here's what he had to say. Sound fonts. The trick is to have a ton of system memory because Creative stores the samples there. I've heard pretty impressive sound fonts, and there are several sets where they're available for free. In terms of other hardware, I can think of any cards that sound decidedly better than the Sound Blaster Live. To get really professional sounding patches, consider an external tone generator from a company like Yamaha, which would set you back anywhere between $600 and $1,500. Both make synth brains without the physical keyboard, and these modules are often rack mountable. Yamaha's VL70M is a pretty good example of this and costs roughly $600. Their MU50 are fewer feature patches and runs about $360. Go to musiciansfriend.com or sweetwater.com to check out gear. Dave. You know, you can play Max Payne on an Xbox. I'm working on upgrading my computer. It's an 800 MHz Pentium 3 Dell with 384 MB of PC 133 SD RAM. PC 130... Restart. I'm working on upgrading my computer. It's an 800 MHz Pentium 3 Dell with 384 MB of PC 133 SD RAM, a 20 GB hard drive, and an onboard video card. My budget is kind of low and I need to upgrade my motherboard and video card. I was wondering if you had any suggestions on what to buy. I don't want the best stuff, but I would like to be able to play Max Payne, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and Serious Sam. From Thenamel Spam. I wonder if that's an acronym or something. Oh, the name is Bam. Duh. It sounds like your current motherboard doesn't have an available AGP slot. If that's the case, you do need to upgrade your motherboard. I take it your CPU is a socket 370. Check out Asus's TUA266 motherboard. It supports socket 370 in your PC 133 SD RAM and boasts an AGP slot. After that, get the best GeForce card you can afford. Which motherboard should I buy? I like to compliment you on being the coolest guy on the CGW staff, but the real reason I'm writing is to get your recommendations on parts for the gaming rig I'm building. I've already lined up an Ecstasy GeForce 4 Titanium, 512MB PC SD RAM, and an optical mouse, and an AMD Athlon 1800 Plus processor. However, I'd like your input to which motherboard I should get. Also, where can I pick up a case power supply? Thanks for the kudos, Phil. If I were you, I'd get an Asus A7N266 motherboard and an Antec SX635 case with a 350 watt power supply. Probably find them both at shopper.cnet.com. Plug for, the website they own, of course. So a killer rig at the time cost $3,500. $600 for a 2.5 gigahertz Pentium 4. $150 for a 512 megabytes of DDR RAM. A GeForce 4 Ti 4600 for $400, cheaper than the CPU. $150 for a mobile. $100 for a case. These still include the floppy drive. I guess it's $20. Sure, I'm gonna include it for $20. 30 gigabyte hard drive. 30 gigabyte. Is that how much I had? It probably was roughly how much I had on my first rig. Man. CDRW drive, DVD-ROM. I guess they hadn't really come up with DVD-R and DVD-RW yet. They were probably too expensive still for the general public. And then keyboards, blah, 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 blah. $200 just for Windows XP. What was coming out at the time? Breath of Fire 2 for Game Boy Advance, Virtua Fighter 4 for PlayStation 2, Warcraft 3, Star Fox Adventures with decidedly not the actual cover of the game. Soldier of Fortune 2. That reminds me. We should put Soldier of Fortune on the list. Probably is on it already. But it's always nice to have it on the list again. Half-Life Generation Pack 3, which includes Blue Shift, Counter-Strike, Half-Life, Alpha 4. So it's all the expansions. Gamer's Edge, Winning for Dummies. So there's stuff for Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which should also go on the list. This is probably more of a... Oh, I already put it earlier on the list. A guide for Command & Conquer Renegade. Just taken from the Prima Games guide. That's funny. That's... I bet... Okay, so who owned Prima guides? Or Prima guides? Was acquired by Random House. And who owned Ziff Davis? I guess Ziff Davis just still owns Ziff Davis. Yeah, I guess so they were just sharing it so that people would buy more of it, I guess. We don't have to read through the walkthrough through Mission 5 of Command & Conquer Renegade. Surviving Sniper Town in Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Oh shit, they were not kidding about Sniper Town. 41 snipers? Shit. Is Sim Golf a game where you get to make... Do you get to play the golf courses? Like, do you get to actually play Sim Golf? For the 2002 video game, which is this one. Sid Meier's Sim Golf. Yeah, you design golf course and play them with their default professional golfer, Gary Golf. That's fucking interesting. Maybe I'm gonna add it to the list. The list always gets longer. The idea is that you design a golf resort and then you get to actually play the courses themselves. That's kind of cool. Very Sims-like, as you can tell. And then the outro, Greenspeak. Shut up and play. This month's rants has been postponed due to good games. As the editor-in-chief of this esteemed publication, I get lots of email all day long. Most of it can be easily filed into a few distinct categories. 1. People who want to work here. 2. People who think our reviews suck and want to know which barn animal gave birth to us that could make us so stupid. And P.S. Do we have any job openings? 3. Angry Canadians. Between these letters and the offers to get me rich quick or enlarge my genitalia, as if it were possible. Ugh, groan. My inbox tends to get a little tedious. But this month I received a letter that really got me. It was from a reader who let me know in no uncertain terms that he was done reading our magazine forever. Why? It's your constant whining about the constant end of computer gaming. It has become increasingly harder to read an article in your magazine without someone pointing out that PCs are almost dead. Give it up already. We read this in the mail area. Now, first of all, I should point out the obvious fact that whining is what we do here. Even when we're happy, we whine. You want cheerful? Try Carrot Top. But truthfully, this email, which went on for several paragraphs, was good for me. Because it's true, PC gaming is not dying. It's not dying now, and it won't be dying a year from now. So let me take off the Chicken Little outfit here and now. No, that was not my real beak. The problem with those of us in the gaming business, other than the stench that is we are very close to the subject... No. Sorry. Redo. The problem with those of us in the gaming business, other than the stench, is that we are very close to our subject. We talk to developers and publishers and other journalists all day long. Everyone speculates, everyone schemes, everyone watches everyone else. And for the past year within the industry, it's been all about the consoles. There's just no denying it. With 2 major console systems released and the PlayStation 2 hosting a phenomenal wave of great games, the PC has just not been able to compete hype-wise. And there were some problems. Games slipped, games sucked, games defected from the PC to the Xbox. The center of gaming gravity has moved, said one Microsoft executive to me. That is why we whine, because Microsoft thinks they can move the freaking gravity. The good news, however, is that it's not true. Yes, there was a slump, but boy did that slump end fast. Just this week alone, we got Jedi Knight 2, Freedom Force, and Dungeon Siege. All awesome PC-only games. Coming soon, Neverwinter Nights, Warcraft 3, Age of Mythology, Unreal Tournament 2003. And how about the game on this month's cover? You think you'll be playing that on your TV anytime this millennium? Think again, Chuckles. Yes, I see the port for an internet connection on the Xbox, but come back to me when I can use it to play something. In the meantime, right here and now, millions of people are playing games over the internet on their PCs. So I got your gravity right here, buddy. Swing it. Instead of writing off the PC, the smarter game publishers, like Microsoft of course, realized there's a fortune to be made on consoles and PCs simply by taking advantage of the strengths of each. Should I state the obvious? It's simple. Sitting 1 foot away from a monitor at a desk with a keyboard and mouse is a fundamentally different aesthetic and sensory experience than sitting 6 feet away from a TV on the couch with a controller. The end. Both are great fun, but they are totally different. I can waste hours playing console games like Soul Calibur and most recently Jet Set Radio Future on my couch at home, but neither would have any appeal to me as a PC game. Their charms are inherently tied into the fact that I can play them casually in my living room with friends while kicking back on my couch. Similarly, games like Civ 3 or Heroes 4 demand that I sit up close in full concentration, at a desk, so I can strategize and micromanage. They are solitary, asterisk brain exercises that would be utterly boring and hard to see on my TV. And anyway, who has TV at work? PC gaming will die, at the earliest, only when everyone has HDTV and broadband and keyboards and mice attached to their TVs. In other words, sometime after we're all dead. So let's let the next generation mourn the death of PC gaming. Me, I'm gonna shut up about it and go play Freedom Force instead. Send resumes, hate mail, and penal management solutions to Jeff Green at zivdavis.com. Alright, and that was Computer Gaming World 215. A little shorter than I expected, which is why we were able to get it through in one episode. I feel like it's definitely shorter than some of the other magazines we've read from earlier times. But yeah, it was fun to revisit some of these. I'm more excited for what's coming up in the next few issues. 216, currently loading. Would have Dungeon Siege. Neverwinter Nights is also coming along very, very soon. Maybe as far as to... Oh, I had already started looking at this one. Like, we got Neverwinter Nights, we get Morrowind, Spider-Man, some strategies for Freedom Force and things like that. So, there's good stuff coming in this area. And, you know, we have 4 games, I think, that are going to be very fun to check out. Jayadcast is a banger. World of Battlecry sounds interesting. Dark Sky is there just for the lulz. And Bridge Commander seems surprisingly good. So those 4 are going to be the 4 we're going to pick for our 60 Minutes This Way episode. We're going to pick a winner. I don't know how it couldn't be Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, but hey, maybe one of them is going to surprise us. But in the meantime, that is going to do it for today's episode. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. I appreciate if you take the time to leave a comment. Were you playing PC games at this time? Do you agree with the statements above? Do you have a good video to recommend about Star Wars Galaxies? Because that was so fascinating. If so, just drop a comment below. Other things happening on the channel. Life of Tammy, of course, is continuing on Tuesdays. It is my pride and joy. I spent so much time planning it, recording it, tried to come up with sort of story and rules in the background. So I appreciate you taking the time to checking it out. Maybe giving it a little extra love. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave it a little comment so more people get to discover it, because I think I'm doing something that is really unique and has not been done before. Later this week, we're gonna have the conclusion to our Rune playthrough get published on the channel. Fun time, fun game. Some issues at the end. It doesn't flow stick the landing, partly because of bugs too. But you know, it happens. In 2 weeks, the part 3 of our Freedom Force playthrough, which turns out will have 4 parts. In 3 weeks, Morrowind Part 5. That game is fantastic. Cannot praise it enough. It's just so good. Very excited to keep playing it. And then in 2 weeks, which I missed in my calendar, the conclusion of Star Wars Dark Forces will premiere. We will be back in 2 weeks with the 60 Minutes to Sway for this issue of Computer Game World. And then I think at this point, we have more or less reached as far as I'm interested in looking. And so we're going to go back all the way to 1995 and look at the PC Gamer number 2, or whatever the following issue of PC Gamer, maybe it was number 9, that we reached that we would be interested in looking at. And so the cycle can start anew. Might add 1 or 2 other magazines or swap a magazine or another in there. But yeah, very excited to just keep going through this like 10 to 15 year period in gaming and explore it in the various platforms, PC, console, all of that. And just, get to know more about my favorite hobby. And thank you so much for joining me in that journey. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much. This is Nick signing off, reminding everyone to let's keep retro playing together.